Good morning. I'd like to welcome you all to the December 4th meeting of the Mojave County Board of Supervisors. We're going to start with a prayer by Pastor Pete from Family Bible Church, and if you'd remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Father God, we thank you for your divine providence in giving us the privilege to live here in Mojave County. Ditat, Deus, God enriches. Thank you for enriching our lives in this great constitutional republic. We give thanks to you as our Creator for our life, liberty, and the gospel message of your Son. We give thanks to you for watching over us when much of our nation has sought to expel you from our government, from any profitable public discourse in our classrooms and courtrooms. Help us this day as decisions are made that affect all of us. I pray that you would open the eyes of these ones that you've placed in authority over us. Help them make wise and righteous decisions for the people of this county. I pray that you would guide them in your wisdom found in the pages of Holy Scripture, not in the wisdom of the world that leads men to stray from your commandments and seeks after selfish ambitions, ungodly ideals, and agendas that destroy people, families, and nations. I pray that you would cause conviction and repentance in the hearts of these ones that have raged against you and continue to seek destruction of this nation. I'm not saying that of our Board of Supervisors. I pray you also lead us all to an understanding of your desperate need of a Savior. For every man and woman will have to give an account of themselves before you. Without your Son, Christ Jesus, living and dying in our place, we are all condemned and under your just wrath. Thank you for your only begotten Son, the Lord Jesus, who died in the place of guilty sinners to satisfy your wrath against all idolatry and lawlessness. Thank you for your mercy and grace that you show believers who put their full faith and confidence in your Son for the forgiveness of their sin. I humbly pray for our Board of Supervisors this morning, for Travis, our board chairman. Protect those who serve our sheriff department, all county public servants. Help us to do better in leaving behind a greater legacy for our children and grandchildren. And may this prayer be acceptable in your sight, Lord God. We humbly pray in your loving Son, the Lord Jesus Christ, the name above every name. Amen.
States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Board of Supervisors may by motion recess into executive session to receive legal advice from the board's attorneys on any item contained in this agenda pursuant to ARS 38-431.03, A, 3, 4, and 7. I'm looking for a motion and action to call for an executive session to be held on January 2nd, 2024 at 9 a.m. for discussion and consultation with legal counsel in accordance with ARS 38-431.03, A, 3, 4, and 7 to discuss items noticed on the agenda with an asterisk. Thank you. You've heard that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Official business to come before the board. Discussion of pending or contemplated litigation claims and demands. Attorney Esplin.
Nothing to report to the board, thank you.
Thank you. Committee and or legislative reports. Supervisor Bishop.
Nothing this morning.
Thank you. Supervisor Angus.
Thank you. Last week, an Arizona grand jury indicted 2 local Republican officials who balked at certifying their county's general election results by the legal deadline in 2022 in a standoff with state officials that drew national attention. Cochise County Supervisors Peggy Judd and Tom Crosby each were charged with 2 felonies, interference with an election officer and conspiracy, according to the indictment. Now, why this is important is because little by little, the power of our local governments are being taken away. So if you play this out, if the Board of Supervisors, what they're saying is our purpose is just an administration purpose, then the elections are really being done and approved by the election director, and that's it. Then it goes to the state. So we really still need to have the power to say that, you know, if we don't believe that the election was done right, or there are maybe problems, we need to be able to have that. And this is going to be a horrible chilling effect, I believe. And so I'm going to ask the county to do a resolution in support of the two supervisors and against the Attorney General, who I think has overstepped. If you remember correctly, we were also told that we would be arrested. And again, let me just repeat what this is for. Merely asking questions, merely wanted to make sure that the elections are done fairly and correctly. And I think if we don't fight this now, this is going to come back to haunt us, and then we'll say, where were you? Everyone will say, where were you, Board of Supervisors? So this is important, and I think we all need to stand up for the supervisors and from Cochise County. Thank you.
Supervisor Gould.
Nothing today, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Supervisor Johnson.
Nothing, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I will offer an update. The State Water Policy Council, both of the subcommittees, the Assured Water Supply Subcommittee, the Rural Groundwater Subcommittee, have now submitted their recommendations. They have been meeting for the last 6 months, have submitted their recommendations through Department of Water Resources to the governor's office, and now we'll see what legislation comes next year during the legislative session, especially when it comes to rural groundwater legislation. I can tell you that Senator Cindy Kerr from Buckeye is crafting a proposal. Historically, you've seen legislation come from our own Mojave County representatives. Regina Cobb, Representative Cobb submitted legislation many sessions. And also Sonny Borelli and Leo Biasucci have submitted legislation last year and the year before. So we'll see what legislation actually gets introduced, and it's going to be a really interesting legislative session when it comes to water in general, but especially watching what happens with the rural groundwater conversation. And those of you that are following the Greenstone to Queen Creek transfer that Mojave County, Yuma County, La Paz County, City of Yuma are following, that legislative, or that litigation, I should say, is still ongoing. If there is one case that needed to be fought, it's that one, because it's precedent setting, and we have to fight it at every level to try to prevent that from happening, because there's a lot of cities on the far east side of the valley down there that are looking for water supplies, and they're looking at the river. So that's all I have.
Chairman Lingenfelter.
Supervisor Bishop.
Did Supervisor Johnson have a report? I didn't hear.
I called on him and he said he had nothing this morning.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. 3, do we have a report from High Ground? Is Nick Ponder on?
I am, Supervisor. Thank you.
Good morning. Proceed.
Good morning. So, Mr. Chair, Supervisors, Supervisor Lingenfelter kind of stole the thunder on that, but yet on what I was going to say, but yes, he is right. The Governor's Water Policy Council, which consists of the Assured Water Supply Committee, as well as the Rural Groundwater Committee, met on the 29th to review and potentially approve or reject the proposals that came out of the committee's meetings over that 6-month period. As indicated by Supervisor Lingenfelter, they were both approved. We had a good, I noted this in the November 20th document that I sent to the board, but we did have a good farmer that was placed on the committee. He really spoke to the situation that small farms are experiencing. He's a chili farmer named Ed Curry from Cochise County. And he really spoke to the issues, the challenges that small farms are facing, and how small farms would be sort of disproportionately impacted by if the legislature, or I'm sorry, if the Department of Water Resources were forced to issue more active management areas throughout the state, as they have the authority to do. He also had some concerns about, I know we've talked about this in this meeting before, but he had some concerns about the election piece of electing people to be on a local board. His rationale was that the small farmers likely wouldn't be adequately represented, but also a fear that in many basins, farms represent a small percentage of the population and therefore may not have any representation on the council. So what the council, what the committee basically came up with is that a list will be provided by local stakeholders, including, there'll be separate lists. So including a list from people from the agricultural sector. And then it was not determined who would do the appointments, but appointments would have to be made from people on that list. So in essence, if agriculture puts together a list and says, we want Mr. Curry as one of our representatives, Mr. Curry could then be selected to represent the agricultural interests in that basin. The only opposition to the proposal, direct opposition, came from Gail Griffin. I don't think there's any surprise there. She cited what Supervisor Lingerfelter cited, which is that there will be a proposal coming out from Senate Kerr. Some of the conversations that we had with Senate leadership gave some insight into a couple of the provisions that could be seen in that. I'm told there are 20 provisions, and Supervisor Lingenfelter and I will be meeting with Senator Kerr on the 18th to go over what might be incorporated into that proposal. However, based on where Senator Kerr has been historically and as well as in the groundwater committee before she stepped away from it, I don't know that this would be something that proposal would be something that the county, for example, would like to support based on my experience with you all, because what I hear from the Farm Bureau, what I hear from Senator Kerr is that they want to effectively create a priority system for groundwater. And we obviously know how the priority system works with the river water and how that's a challenge to the county. What it sounds like they want is a priority system where farmers effectively don't have to undergo conservation and get to use whatever they were using prior. What that means is even if farmers came in last to the basin, for example, like what we're experiencing in the Hualapai Valley Basin, they might be given priority and not be required to undergo conservation in that proposal. So we'll wait to see, but that's my quick analysis based on everything that I've heard from them. The only other piece that I would add to this, and High Ground is coordinating with about 10 other lobbyists to pursue the proposal, the Mojave County, well, I continue to call the Mojave County proposal because it came out of Mojave County and Representative Cobb and Leo Biasucci and Sonny Borelli and others. But we will continue to pursue that within the framework of what came out of the Governor's Policy Council. The only other thing I have to add is that DWR just put out on Friday their first round of inflow-outflow reports from the legislation, the WIFA legislation that passed in 2022. You may recall that they're required to review every basin and identify the demand on water, inflow and outflow. Very interesting data. Hualapai Valley Basin was one of the ones that was incorporated into that study. As you all know, we have a negative 30,000 inflow to acre feet per year, inflow to outflow in the Hualapai Valley Basin, which justified the INA. Just of note, the Wilcox Basin in southeast Arizona is experiencing negative 100,000 acre feet. So 100,000 more acre feet coming out of the basin than going in on an annual basis. And over the past, I believe I have to go back and look. It's 3.5 million acre feet over the past, I think, decade or so. I have to go back and look at the data, but it was an alarming number. I'm sorry, it's 3.5 million acre feet in storage lost over the last 30 years. And the average well depth in that particular basin is the water is lower than the average well depth drilled. So a majority of people have lost access to water. So that's all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for High Ground? Nick, I know that the Arizona Reconsultation Committee on the river met on the 20th of November. I sent a presentation that was provided during that meeting to the board. I forwarded that to them. Do you have anything to speak on the Reconsultation Committee and tracking that?
Yeah, so I also put much of that in my report. I didn't take the slides directly, but I did put much of that in my report on the 20th, that the water level depth in Lake Mead, for example, is basically where it was in 2021. So 2022, it declined precipitously. And then 2023, because of the snowpack and wet winter that we had, we're basically back up to the 2021 levels, which is great. I think that leads everybody, most people, to believe that that we won't get to a tier 2B, for example, shortage by the 2026 requirement that we do a new reconsultation with all 7 basin states. The biggest thing to come out of that conversation on the 20th was that the Bureau of Reclamation had accepted the lower basin state proposals, the Nevada, Arizona, and California proposal on cutting 3 million acre feet of water usage off the river until that 2026 time in which the renegotiation happens. And that the feeling of the Reconsultation Committee is that in doing so, in the BOR approving that, in the 3 states coming together to agree to something where Arizona wasn't last in line and California did take some cuts, actually puts the 3 lower basin states in a better negotiating position as we go forward into the 2026 cycle with the upper 4 basin states. So I think that was the biggest point to come out of that.
Questions for High Ground? Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Ponder, you mentioned that the water table depth was deeper than the wells drilled in the area. That was Cochise County that you spoke of, correct?
Yeah, and Supervisor, Mr. Chair, Supervisor Gould, it was Cochise County. I guess what I was trying to highlight there is that some of this data is really interesting if you pour through it. And we can go ahead and pour through it for Mojave County as well, for the Hualapai Valley Basin. We know, for example, that some of the data that we presented in 2021 was that 6 times more water coming out of the basin from 2015 to 2021. So I was just highlighting where some of that data goes, and I can share with you guys the Hualapai report if you'd like.
I wasn't attempting to be critical. I just wanted to clarify that was Cochise County. But in one of my own wells in the Yucca area, since 2000, that water level has dropped 80 feet. And there's no farming or industrial use on that particular aquifer. So I think just the drought has dropped the water table quite a bit. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, Mr. Gould, I would agree with you on that. And every basin is different in how the water table is affected.
Sure. You know, I'll put this on record as well. The Republicans currently they control the House and the Senate at the state level, but you know, you have some Democrats right now that are campaigning to try to flip the legislature next year based on water. The fact that Gail Griffin and the other committee chair have not heard bills, they're going to try to weaponize that, and I fear for that. We certainly don't want to lose the legislature, and You know, the other thing I fear is that if a proposal that is a more adaptable framework for rural, which has local control, if that does not make it into law, what I've also heard is that the governor's office and ADWR already have the power to initiate proceedings to look at creating subsequent active management areas in the rural parts of the state. And I can tell you that we certainly don't want that. AMAs are not a flexible tool at all. We shouldn't have a one-size-fits-all tool for managing groundwater in rural. So hopefully Republicans will pass something that is a good piece of legislation, and we can avoid that initiation of additional AMAs in the state. County Manager's report.
Good morning, Chairman, board members. No county manager report today.
Very good. We'll move to the call to the public. First up is George Hill, and everybody that comes up, if you'll state your name at the beginning. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is George Hill. I'm a resident of District 1 and live here in Kingman. My remarks are pertinent to your opening remarks, Supervisor Angus. You're all registered Republicans, but you're not Republican. If you understood what it means to be a small R Republican, then the vote of November 20th, or even that of last August, should have been a 5-0 to scrap the Dominion voting machines, which, despite the best efforts of liars and deniers in high places, and both parties, are designed to be remotely manipulated to achieve outcomes not consistent with the will of those entitled to vote. But instead, your obviously predetermined 3-2 vote demonstrated the utter meaninglessness of the capital R after your names. By the way, here's the definition of Republican: a form of government in which supreme authority rests with a body of people entitled to vote and exercised by elected officials accountable to them and governing according to the rule of law. You say you believe in the rule of law, but what you actually believe in is the rule of what's legal. Throughout the discussion, you kept checking with Mr. Esplin, asking, can we do that? Is this legal? And he chaptered and versed you, generally advising you can't do anything unless Phoenix or the feds say you can. By the way, no one has taken your power from you. You've been ceding it. We should take it back, okay? Or keep what we have already. There was never any consideration given to what is ethical or moral or consistent with the principles of natural law upon which the rule of law rests. No, it was just, can we count ballots and cover ourselves, all right? Never mind that we have a 200+ years reliable county-led precinct monitored elections by paper ballots. And when Supervisor Lingenfelter asked Mr. Esplin if there was an exception, he said yes, and counting ballots is allowed, hand counting ballots is allowed if it is determined the use of the machines is impracticable. And then you ask, who defines impracticable? And to which Mr. Esplin said, in effect, you do. The definition of impracticable is not capable of being accomplished by the means at hand. If we accept that the universally desired accomplishment of any election is accuracy, then by all accounts, these machines have demonstrated overwhelmingly that they are incapable of achieving accuracy and are therefore impracticable. But you cave to the idle threats of a petty tyrant, Chris Mays. I say idle because there is no way that she could have sued simply because you exercised your lawful authority to conclude the machines were impractical. Without secure elections, we have no liberty. This is not a red or a blue issue. The preservation of liberty, not doing what is legal, should be your top priority. The preservation of liberty requires risks. The founders were willing to risk their necks to do what King George certainly considered illegal. You aren't willing to risk anything. Discharge this attorney here and just consult Chris Mays, because it's evident that she and her bulldog, Mark Elias, are running and supervising this county.
Thank you,
It is
sir.
evident that. I say again with Thomas Jefferson, it is error alone that needs the force
you,
of
sir.
government. The truth can stand on its own. Thank you for
Thank you
granting
very
me the
much.
extra time.
Greg Befort. Just as a rule of thumb, I'm going to wait until the last little beep, and then time's up.
Morning, Supervisors. For the record, my name's Greg Bedford. I've been up here many times. I want to talk about Supervisor Angus's opening remarks as well about the power that's been taken away from the supervisors and the concern about that. Well, you had power. You had power back in 2020 when myself and the Havasu Patriots were up here telling you that you were abusing the power, the authority that you did not have to constitutionally, statutorily, or morally to do what you were doing in terms of the COVID shutdown. And the two that I've been focusing on in terms of complicitness have been the two former law enforcement, quote unquote, professionals who spearheaded this. In your role as the chair, you took, and the head of the health department, you ramrodded the shutting down of businesses, which you had no authority to do. Tell people to wear a mask. There's still the social distancing stickers up here on the door. You're still perpetuating a lie. That is a sigil. That's the people's subconsciousness picks up on that when they come in here and they think that there must still be a crisis, which there isn't. Never was. Never was. And the two law enforcement professionals should know the difference between lawful and legal. You knew there was no the lawful basis for what you were doing. You should have known in the positions that you were in. And yet you censored people. The first thing you did was argued about how quickly we should shut down and hide. And then you went and hid for months. And then as soon as we had an opportunity to come in here, you put sheriff's deputies out here until we went and met with the sheriff who said, this is not a law enforcement problem. He knew it from the beginning. We're not enforcing masks, we're not shutting down businesses. But what you did was went and put security guards out here to keep me and many other people from coming in here and pushing back against your narrative, which was false. So before we look at giving the local supervisors here any more power, how about we hold you accountable for the power you abused back then? By your own admission, Supervisor Angus, you said before Proclamation 1776 was implemented that we overstepped, didn't you? We overstepped. And I'm not taking aim at the three of you because I know the two of you, particularly, you had a lopsided board and you pushed back. You did. And certainly Supervisor Lingenfelter took the lead in pushing 1776 forward. And I got to give him credit for that. It was a bold move and was a turning point in this lie, this fraud. You know, communism is what's killing this country, and it's taken on the modern form now since the early 70s of modern day religious and political Zionism. That's what's killing this country now. I'll be back.
Peter Ernst.
Supervisors, it's been my privilege to have pastored in this community at Manzanita Baptist and now Family Bible Church for over 30 years. I am disappointed and concerned, and I share Supervisor Hildy's concern that our nation's liberties are slowly being eroded and compromised by those who we have trusted to govern us. I don't know what motivates you. I'm not here to judge you. But my hope would be a serious and maybe even fearful regard before God and before the people you serve of how fragile our liberties really are. In a letter to Abigail on July 7th, 1775, John Adams, one of the fathers of our great constitutional republic, wrote, "A constitution of government once changed from freedom can never be restored. Liberty once lost is lost forever. And when the people once surrender their share in the legislature and their right of defending the limitations of government and of resisting the every encroachment upon them, they can never regain it." It may seem like it's not a big deal that our freedoms that have been constitutionally protected in the vote that we get to do on a regular basis, that would be upheld and assured by those who are tasked to lead us and to protect the integrity of the voting process of a hand count. I can assure you it is of the most profound concern and consequence for most Americans. Unfortunately, many are completely oblivious to what their government is doing. They trust the process and inherently trust those who they elected to office for their best interests. There are many who are rising right now that do understand the consequences of tyranny. Evil encroaches ever so slowly and patiently on this great land. The Constitution is not a living document any more than the Word of God is. It is set in stone throughout our nation's monuments and government buildings. I recently got a call from a family moving from California wanting information on Mojave County. They'd done their research. They were looking for the most conservative county in America. This individual had enough of the liberal, progressive, one world government nonsense. You and I are tasked in this great state, county, and community to hold fast to the foundations before they are completely destroyed. The Word of God tells us if the foundations are destroyed, what can the righteous do? I appeal to you respectfully. I don't presume your guilt, your conscience, or motives. I would rather assume the best of you and from you, that you would do your part in holding fast to the principles that have made this nation great. Would you restore the hand count for ballot cast in 2024 and beyond? And let me say this last thought. Let courage be your torch, and freedom and the light of liberty the fire in your soul, for our good and for God's glory. Let Mojave County be the example to our nation of courageous, principled leadership.
Thank you. Chris Rodarte.
Chris Rodarte, Mojave County taxpayer. Woe to those who decree unrighteous decrees, who write misfortune, which they have prescribed, to rob the needy of justice and to take what is right from the poor of my people. Isaiah 10, 1 and 2. On November 20, 2023, in a display of unparalleled cowardice, this board turned its back on the will of the people, caved at the feet of Chris Mays, and voted against hand tabulation of ballots in the 2024 election. What an outrage. While I am let down by your actions, in retrospect, I wasn't surprised. What I saw that day was pure kabuki theater. Prove me wrong, please. In my view, this was an orchestrated, well-rehearsed public charade. The back and forth discussion, hemming and hawing over legal technicalities, Sonny Borelli chiming in, the heaping of continual praise upon the elections director, finger wagging at the concept of spending a few shekels to ensure free and fair elections, all histrionics designed to gaslight and deceive. I did find it fascinating that this agenda item was the final one on the list, but then why not save the best or worst for last? In prior meetings, items which have drawn a significant audience were moved up the queue, but not this time. Turns out there was a sinister reason, Mr. Chairman. Made it so much easier for you to vote no, gavel down, and skulk out of the building. But you, Mr. Lingenfelter, do not deserve all the blame. There's plenty to go around. From the usual nay voters when it comes to protecting our rights, Ms. Bishop and Mr. Johnson. At least I know what to expect from you two. Ms. Angus and Mr. Gould, while you voted yes, in my opinion, you both knew what the outcome would be, chomping at the bit to celebrate your heroism and pumped up virtue. All of you should resign. But at least you aren't going to jail. You saved your bacon at the expense of we the people. But there has to be more to it. 2 of you no voters on this board are running for re-election. Doesn't that heave support towards your opponents? Why then would you vote the way you did? Are you against hand counts because you intend to cheat? That's how it looks. What else are we to believe? I sincerely hope I'm wrong about your motives, your cowardice, and your avarice. This, the last meeting of 2024, leaves me sad, frustrated, fed up, let down, but not defeated. I will live to fight another day. We, the people, aren't going anywhere. But to those of you seated piously upon your elevated thrones of authority, I pray God's mercy on your souls.
Philip Robinson.
Learn who your friends are, Chris.
First off, is the sheriff in here? Just these deputies? Okay, number one, I can guarantee the sheriff would not put you in jail. Start talking to the state, okay? Talk to the state CPS, or DPS, the captain over at this station over here on 66, and I can guarantee you, you guys will not go to jail. Mr. Epstein, you need to learn the Constitution. You truly do. And the rest of you, I know Ron knows it. That's why he always votes no for stuff. Instead of raising his hand and going, hey, I know very little, and I know more than what most of you know. But Ron, you're a good one. You know your Constitution, and I appreciate it. But you need to step up and tell this attorney down in Phoenix to go bug out. You don't have to do what she says. She doesn't govern us up here. There's your county attorney. He can tell you that. Thank you.
Scotty McClure.
Jenny, in case you forgot my name, it's Scotty from Bullhead. I second what Hildy said earlier, and I am running for her seat, and I would have voted to have a hand count. So your vote will not change next year when we bring this back. I have a feeling Jennifer Esposito is going to win that seat, and she has stated she will vote for a hand count. We know what Ron is going to vote. He voted for it already. And if Sonny Borelli wins that seat over there, you know where he's going to vote. So it would be 4 to a question mark. I'm not sure about Sean, what he would do that's running against Travis there. So bring it back next year, if not sooner. It's, you know, this is just bull maze. And the hobgoblin can dictate to us. I grew up in Humboldt County, 900 miles from LA, and they dictated Sacramento for years, and I'm sick of it, that Maricopa can do that to us. Thank you for finally settling with the Fair Board, and nobody went to jail, huh? A couple years ago, I asked for an audit 3 different times up here on my 3 minutes. I still I'll accept it, but I'm still wondering where the other $300,000 went. But whatever, that's gone. Next, what is it? December 5th, at the library in Bullhead, they're having a reading or a teaching Spanish to kids under 5. What the heck is that? Sam Elters, you need to look into that. Why are we teaching kids Spanish or reading to them in Spanish? I'm still trying to get information on the grand jury. I hope I can get more, and a couple of judges here to go with me on this. But I'll be bringing that to you. My arm's tired already. You know what this is? The travel expenses. I put in a request, the travel expenses with Bullhead City Council for the year. They spent over, listen up, Lake Havasu and Kingman. Did they happen to go to the League of Arizona Cities and Towns annual conference in Tucson? Our bill, there were 10 people that went for us, for Bullhead, and it came to almost $12,000 for motel rooms and food. Yeah, ask the city councils in Lake Havasu and Kingman. The Arizona and Towns Annual Conference. Steve D'Amico, our mayor, of Bullhead City, Biden, Mayor Biden, I can't believe I ran out of town. I'll be back.
Kenny Works.
Kenny Works, Yucca. I'm going to be sparing I don't have any criticisms for our board. They've been doing a fantastic job for us, and we have a Republican majority on the board, or strictly Republicans. Aristotle said that republics decline into democracies, and democracies degenerate into despotisms. He was born in 384 BC and he died in 322 BC. He was 62 years old when he died. It's amazing how much he was able to accomplish in his thoughts. People still regard with a lot of attention what he said. Our founding fathers read a lot of his remarks, and along with a lot of others. Here's what Thomas Sowell had to say. What exactly is your fair share of what someone else has worked for? Buried inside Joe Biden's massive tax proposal, a new death tax that will hit even more families and hit them harder than ever before. If this new death tax passes, many middle-class families will be forced to pay a crippling tax bill and perhaps even sell their homes when a loved one dies. With so much attention paid to the huge income tax hikes that Joe Biden is proposing, very few taxpayers are aware of another looming threat hidden inside this tax proposal. A brand new death tax that will affect many more families than current policy, which is bad enough already. With all the radical proposals coming from the Biden White House, it's no surprise this new death tax has so far not received much attention. What it comes down to is no step up in basis anymore. When you sell your house, when you get rid of a property, the basis on your investment will be what you paid for it, and no step up in basis. So if you will property to your son or daughter, and they have to pay the tax on what you paid for the property, the difference between what you paid for the property and what the property is now worth. And that's the reason for all this inflation that they're causing. There's a reason for this inflation, and the reason for this 87,000 new IRS agents. What's to stop them from going retroactive on any of this stuff? Thank you.
Ashley Garrett. Order.
Chairman, Board, my name is Ashley Garrett. I'm here to speak about the PC issue that we have in Mojave County. Last weekend we had a PC meeting in Lake Havasu where I was the first vice chair of Mojave County Republican Central Committee and was removed from my seat by 3 votes. Unfortunately, I believe that list was deflated by our county chairwoman, Jeannie Kench, by essentially not going by the recommendation of the Board of Supervisors, where she even allegedly said that she doesn't care what they say. As a group of, in the Republican Party, she determines they are going to determine who are PC members and who are not. Here is a email. With all due respect, I have had proper advice from well-known attorneys such as Alex Culloden and Timothy Lasota. I am confident these well-known political attorneys are advising me appropriately. I sent you the statute so you can see for yourself. It is not necessary for me to contact my supervisor or their attorney. I stand by my attorney's advice. There are 2 different PC lists, one from about 3 weeks ago to today, this last weekend where they were deflated. And several of the PCs received that email stating that it doesn't matter what the statute is as far as they are concerned, that those PCs are resigned. And they were turned away from being able to enter into the PC meeting for my removal. It's unfortunate because several individuals that wanted to remain on the PC list are taken off based off of false pretenses. The statute states that a precinct committeeman moves from precinct from which elected, or the precinct committeeman changes political party, which is grounds for removal or vacancy. And that will be on item number 67. That being said, some of these individuals have not done really any of those things, or they have rescinded their resignation prior to any Board of Supervisors meeting. Essentially what this boils down to is that I believe I was politically persecuted based on some things that I've been running for recently in my newest campaign. I think that the Board of Supervisors needs to go further into the PC list and address what is actually going to be happening and how to approach the PCs of the county, because they have no idea what's going on. I also want to identify issues in our most current PC list that was distributed to the board of the Mojave County Republican Central Committee. It was, there was plenty of discrepancies on it from the board of the GOP as well as the Board of Supervisors. This is something that needs to be addressed, and I think that before you can actually address 67, you must determine how you're going to confer with the county party. Thank you.
Don Martin.
Travis, who's on that? Item 53. Yes.
You meant to sign up for item 53? Thank you. I'll put that in the pile. Jennifer Esposito.
Thank you, Jennifer Esposito, candidate for District 4 County Supervisor. I'd like to thank Scotty for his vote of encouragement. Didn't expect that, but some of us come here week after week. I mean, you know, meeting after meeting, sometimes week after week when there's budget meetings and other things. But some of us come here and we put where we stand and what we believe on the record. And most of my opponents have chosen not to do that. You know, there's an old saying in politics and life that if you give someone enough rope, they'll hang themselves. And it looks to me like Senator Borelli gave Chairman Lingenfelter enough rope and he hung himself at the last meeting. Thank you for wasting all of our time and being a feckless coward, Travis. Moving on, I'd like to talk and address Supervisor Bishop and Supervisor Johnson. I believe it was October 19th, the newspaper published an article about why you guys decided not to turn over the Golden Valley Improvement District to a local board of actual stakeholders, including myself. And the comments were basically, oh, there was a big rush of people who didn't weigh in before. Oh, the calls, the emails, people didn't want a private board. So, being the curious person that I am, I pulled a public records request. I asked for all the emails, even written letters if there were any. Of course, I wouldn't have any knowledge of actual phone calls, that's speculation. But come to find out, the scant amount of emails against turning this over to a private board for GVID versus the number of people who signed a petition asking for a private board was roughly 3-to-1 in favor of a private board. So I'm not surprised that Supervisor Bishop would have lied to the newspaper. I'd be more surprised if she told the truth, honestly. I did expect better from Supervisor Johnson, however. But given what happened at the last meeting, I think that Scotty is right, and Supervisor Johnson also chose the gallows, and we will be sitting up there with Supervisor Borelli. The thing is GVID is still in litigation over the rate increase. I'm not sure that the people in the audience know that, but I'm sure that the people sitting up there know that. You know, there's a motion before the court, and I'm answering that motion and raising that motion and asking for oral arguments and whatnot, because you guys have given me so much new material that was not available at the hearing, including the fact that our esteemed chairman basically admitted that their whole argument in court that they had to have the surcharge, you know, to do the well thing, they basically admitting that it was just an end run around the statute and that it was easier to impose the surcharge than it was to do things legally and impose the tax. So thank you for all that wonderful quotes on the record that will go into my response to Attorney Esplin's motion for summary judgment. Thank you. Can't thank you enough.
Welcome. Sean Meisner.
Hello, Board. Chairman, I'm Sean Meisner, Kingman, Arizona, running for District 1 Supervisor. I just wanted to thank Supervisor Angus and Supervisor Gould for voting yes on the hand count. We are in an impracticable state, right? Impracticable state. It's time we all step up, no matter what it takes. Going to jail, it doesn't matter. I would. This is 100% bullying. We're being invaded. An attorney general threatening supervisors and charging others for hints of a hand count. It's wrong. We've already seen fraud starting. They've moved their pieces into place, and now they control elections 100%. With the Democratic governor, secretary, and attorney general, they're now removing any possible ways to check these machines. We have to make policy to change this, and we have to fight back. The establishment wins forever if there's no hand count. We all must step up against the new attorney general and fight for our freedom to have free and clear elections. And check by a hand count, 100% hand count at precinct level. You vote, you count it. That's it. It's not hard. We can do this. Let's all get together and put together policy for hand counting to check these machines, because there's nothing after the IT sets whatever the algorithm is going to be. We all know that. They can set it to whatever they want. So we have to have a backup plan. So, thank you.
Chairman Lingenfelter.
As last speaker, Supervisor Angus.
Thank you very much. Since my name was brought up, I do have a response, and it's to Chris Rodarty. By stating that the Board of Supervisors knew the outcome of the vote about the hand count, you accused us of violating the open meeting law. That is a serious accusation, and if you truly believe that, then you should file a formal complaint with the Attorney General. Many years ago, I implied unintentionally that a Board of Supervisors budget decision was predetermined, and at the next meeting, Supervisor Johnson asked for an open meeting law complaint on this very board because I accused my board of violating the open meeting law. He was correct, and I apologized personally to the board and publicly, because I said it on the radio show, and I apologized on the radio show. It's a very, very serious accusation. So if you truly believe that we had that predetermined outcome, I'm asking you to clear our name to do a formal Attorney General complaint. Thank you.
Any other comments from the board? No. You know, I'll make a comment since I was discussed too. I've been a lifelong Republican since I was 18. I believe in God, the U.S. Constitution, First Amendment, Second Amendment, individual freedom of choice. And I'm on record with that, both the city of Kingman and here, about masks. And all of the COVID baloney. It's not the government's choice, it's your choice. And I've stood for that. Limited government, the rule of law, fiscal responsibility, the power of the free market, protecting human dignity and peace through strength. And I'm going to always stand for those things as a Republican here. But I've watched the 31 cases and appeals, and we haven't won one of them. And then we get this letter on the 20th, the morning of the 20th, and they've demonstrated this lawfare tactic now in Arizona, and I oppose it. I'm going to support strongly this resolution. I hope that we come out strongly in this resolution. Those two Cochise County supervisors were charged with a Class 5 felony. They could serve up to 2.5 years in prison and up to $150,000 in fines. That's not okay. The AG crossed the line, and it will have a chilling effect. If we have questions, we should be able to use the legal system in a way that it was intended, and they shouldn't be weaponizing our criminal justice system. So I'm going to be supporting that very strongly. In addition, there's an item on our agenda today on election ballots, and I'm going to be pulling that because I think that we can, just like our dollar bills, can add some some countermeasures to make sure that we can't have fraudulent ballots. I know that Mojave County used to have a perforated tab on the top of each ballot with a QR code so people can follow their ballots. We can look at watermarks, but we're going to be talking about that later. We're going to move to the consent agenda. Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm exploring a lawsuit against the Attorney General. What the Attorney General did by threatening the board before a vote is to manipulate the outcome of an election.
That's right.
I believe that's illegal under 2 to 3 state statutes. It's out of line, it's out of place, and she needs to be reprimanded for doing that. Clearly trying to influence the outcome of a legislative body. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. We're going to move to consent. Supervisor Bishop, would you like to remove any items from consent?
7, 9, and 45.
7, 9, and 35?
45.
45, thank you. Supervisor Angus?
34 and 52.
34 and 52. Thank you. Supervisor Gould?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Believe it or not, I have nothing additional to pull off the agenda because the other people have already pulled it.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Johnson?
Nothing, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I'm going to remove items number 30 and 46. I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda minus items 7, 9, 30, 34, 45, 46, and 52.
So moved.
You've heard that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. You've heard that motion second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Item number 7, Supervisor Bishop.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I pulled this for the same reason as we pulled the appointment of the Republican precinct committeemen. Not necessarily the appointment, but the removal. Once again, just like the Republicans, the Democrats have one that they are wanting us to approve removal, but there's no indication as to whether or not this person wants to be removed. So I understand that later on the agenda, on item number 67, the county attorney has put together a new form that makes it clearer that should prevent this problem from happening again. So at this time, I'll support the appointments of the PC committeemen under item number 7, but not the one removal until we get more information indicating why.
Second.
You've heard that motion second. Additional discussion? Supervisor Angus?
No, I'm just.
Okay.
Chairman, if I can just get
Attorney Esplin.
If I get some clarification. So you're motioning to approve the appointments but deny accepting the resignation. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Additional discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
No. I'm not sure what the Supervisor Johnson voted.
Motion carries 3-2.
Thank you. Item number 9, Supervisor Bishop.
Okay, this item I removed strictly because of the amount of opposition. We've received a lot of emails, and to date, I have an indication that there's 156 people opposed to this, so I thought I would pull it and give those here an opportunity to declare their opposition or support.
Thank you. We do have quite a number of people that have signed up to speak. Supervisor Gould?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we should begin with somebody from Development Services explaining the project.
We can certainly do that. I also have the applicant here. They have a presentation. I think I'd like to ask them to come up as well first. I'm going to give you a little bit of time to do the maybe an abbreviated version of the presentation, but maybe that would answer some of the questions that some of the folks may have. And then we can bring up staff.
See if this thing works. Okay. Chairman Lingenfelter and Supervisors, I'm John Martell, the Chief Operating Officer for Mojave Electric. Power costs on the open market have gotten out of control. MEC's rates are set to cover just over 8 cents per kilowatt hour, which is about $80 per megawatt hour. The past 3 summers, power has risen to as high as $1.60 per kWh, or $1,600 per megawatt hour. So we must do something to control the power cost to our members. Building a low-emission, quick-start natural gas unit will allow us to control the cost to our members. EPA states that statewide, all the new gas units will avoid 12,250 metric tons of CO2 per year in the state of Arizona. These new gas units are not the large power plants you have seen in Mojave County in the past. They are much smaller and have a significant reduction in emissions, as well as they will use for peaking power, which will be limited to the summer high-cost period, as well as any period when we have an interruption of service. So this is the second step in a multi-step process. The first step was going from the Arizona Corporation Commission, who confirmed the need for the generation. Second step is from the Board of Supervisors with the extension of time. And from here forward, there are multiple steps, including from the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality, who will evaluate any potential impacts and mitigation measures for air quality and other resources. All these steps require public hearings, public input, and we welcome feedback from everyone during the process. Not to mention, we're disseminating information to all residents, whether they are MEC members or Unisource customers. We're also committed to holding public town-style meetings on updates about the project as we begin engineering and environmental studies. Meetings will be scheduled as soon as we receive information on the project. We've looked at several different locations all around our service territory, and as it relates to this site, we spent a large investment of our members' money due to its location of natural gas, our power system, and the zoning/general use. We have had discussions with and can provide emergency power to Bullhead City as well as Mojave County for emergency backup, as well as any cooling centers, hospitals, and such in times of emergency. The nearest structure from the proposed site is roughly 1/3 of a mile into the southwest and over 1/2 a mile to the southeast. In a recent survey of our membership, they told us the preferred generation source is natural gas, even twice as much as renewables. And the members have an 84% approval rate of gas units in Mojave County, in Fort Mojave. We received hundreds of support cards, as you can see below here, from our members. Over 70 of these have come from the Fort Mojave, Mojave Valley area. So I would like to leave you with this. Project benefits, reliability, affordability, and outage reduction and prevention. Without this project, we foresee rolling blackouts, high rates and market costs, and no emergency backup. So I respectfully request the extension of time to allow MEC to work through the process with a multitude of agencies that have been tasked with overseeing this process.
Thank you for your time, and I can answer any questions.
Questions for MEC? Supervisor Angus.
Thank you. Thank you. That was an abbreviated presentation. We got the whole presentation. A lot of the complaints and the concerns I received, I'm sure the rest of the board received, is about what's emitted from this facility. Can you address that?
We don't have the total numbers. We haven't done any environmental studies. I know that there are 90% reduction from what you see from like South Point and Griffith in this state. So they do have some emissions, but nothing to the degree.
But what is being emitted?
NOx and CO2.
Okay.
That's all.
I actually went and stood on that area, and it isn't, I got the impression, that's why I wanted to see for myself, because I got the impression it was kind of like right where the population is, right where the solar panels are, but it's really not. I mean, I wish everybody could go up there. I mean, I have it on my video if anybody wants to see. I have it on my phone. I mean, I could hardly even see a rooftop from where I was. I could hardly see the solar panels. It's kind of, it's true. I mean, you could laugh, but have you been up there? And I really wish everybody would. I think that there's a lot of misinformation that's going on. But I understand that this is part of the process that MEC will go forward, and during the permitting, everything that, all the information, I mean, it's by law, they have to have public hearings and things like that, right?
Yes, ma'am. I have pictures too, if you guys want to see. Chairman Lingelfelder said I had 3 minutes, so I had to cut it down to get 3 minutes in, but I have plenty of pictures and stuff if you guys would like to see any of it.
Other questions for the applicant? Supervisor Bishop?
So I received information from one of our constituents that a lot of this power is not going on the grid, it's being used just for Mojave County. Is that fact or fiction?
That is absolutely true. No, it's a served Mojave Electric's load in the area.
Okay, and then some of the neighboring residences are rumored to be in Unisource area of service provider.
That is true. Unisource serves a little portion down there. We have talked to Unisource as well as we'll talk to others. If there's emergency backup, wherever the power comes from, if we lose the large transmission lines like all of us lost last September, there's engineering that can be done where we can tie essentially our 69 kV voltage together with Unisources and pick up some of their load in the area just as well as Mojave Electric's load. And we intend to do that, but it's early on in the process. Still, we haven't got a commitment from Unisource yet, but we have mentioned it to them.
Okay, so if an emergency exists, MEC could provide energy to Unisource.
If basically they run a different voltage on the distribution, so we'd have to connect to them on our 69 kV system, but yes, it could definitely be done.
Okay, and right now, I believe both MEC and Unisource are having difficulty getting enough power to supply their customers?
In the summertime, yeah. We're on the open market for a portion of our power. That's when you see those $1,600 megawatt hour, they hit our rates. It's coming out soon. You'll see it, Mojave Electric. We had to put a 2-cent PCA power cost adjuster on our rates. So our rates are going up. Unisource, you see, is in for a rate case, 14% or something. So yeah, it is a fact that the power price, not just Unisource, all over the state of Arizona, APS has them, SRP has them, fellow co-ops down south. Everybody is having rate impact currently.
Okay. So Supervisor Angus pointed out that she couldn't even see rooftops from the location. So, and I've been out there. It really is pretty isolated. But is there any way that you could build this power plant to the furthest location on your property?
Yeah, let me bring up
furthest away from the residential areas. Can we move it another 100 feet, 1,000 feet? What's
500 feet, something like that. The first answer is yes, we can,
please.
with the correct zoning. We picked the spot here because of the zoning. We're trying to build on the northern part of our zoning to get away from all those residences, everything else that we see here. But we own, in my PowerPoint, I have it up. We own basically that whole area. So we have, there's, I don't know, 500 to 1,000 feet or more. Here we go. There's a spot on here that we can build. Let me see where to go. Pardon me real quick.
So while you're looking for that, I'm kind of in support of this. I want it as far away from the residential areas as possible, but I also want these same people living in these residential areas to have air conditioning during the 110-degree heat down there in the lower part of the county.
Appreciate that. So here's the map you see here. So this is the current area that's got the general use. You see, Mojave Electric owns all this property in this section. We have a solar field up here, solar field here, and a solar field here, but somewhere up in this area could get away from the residents quite a bit more, but currently there's no zoning for there, so we have to kind of go by the county's rules and go with their zoning. If there's a way for us to get zoned farther up, we'll be glad to look at moving it farther north.
Okay, we'll have Development Services address that when they come to the podium.
Thank you.
Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This project's in my district. These are my folks. If you take a look at the map, Vanderslice is the boundary for the service area between MEC and Unisource. The people that live around this plant are Unisource customers. So this plant is not even in the territory that they're going to serve. And it's a similar argument to the argument that we hear with solar panels, that we're in a battle with the solar people, that they put up solar panels in an area that we get to look at them and it doesn't benefit us, that power goes someplace else. Well, this is kind of a micro version of that. MEC's come out into a different area that's served by a different power company and wants to put a power plant in that area. If we take a look at what this was zoned for before, in 18, this was zoned MEC or MX with restrictions for a gravel operation inside of a building. Before that, it was RE10. So it was residential estates, 10 acres. These are right next to people's homes. The nearest home is about 1,150 feet away.
Order, thank you.
Over the weekend, I was down helping my daughter move out of the Glendale area. Strangely enough, Salt River Project has 2 peakers right there. These peakers were put in less than 2 years ago. These peakers from her house, Google Maps, it's a half a mile from the peaker to her home. She can hear these things run taking a shower. Her father-in-law lives in the same neighborhood. He can hear them run. My son-in-law agreed that you can hear these peakers run. I took a picture of this. I don't know that I can actually show it on the overhead, but I guess I could pass it across the table of what these things look like.
Some pictures, sir, if you like.
Pardon me?
I have some pictures if you'd like to see what they look like.
I bet you do. But I could pass that across. This is on 73rd Avenue in Northern. That's one peaker. Directly behind it is a second peaker. These are jet engines that spin a turbine. This is what they really are. This is just inappropriate for a residential neighborhood, is what it boils down to.
Am I allowed to answer that?
Order, thank you.
I'm still speaking.
Tell your people to stop clapping, man.
It's not
That's my responsibility.
It's not your place to tell my folks to quit clapping.
I'll call for order.
That's the chairman's job. But it's just inappropriate. It was wrong, I believe, to zone this for that gravel operation. I think that was wrong. That was done before my time. But to come in here and to try to end run the zoning process by getting us to cross out that exemption on that to give them an industrial site, I think is wrong. I saw a quote from former Supervisor Wakamoto that said that she insisted that site had that restriction on there to get her vote. And this is what people always worry about when we rezone things with an exception. They fear that somebody's going to come back and lift that exception. This is a prime example of this. I'm not against power. I'm not against peakers. I just think they shouldn't be in residential neighborhoods. There's a section of state land right next to that. State land's for sale. Find a better place for it. This is just a terrible place to put a power plant. And if you take the example of those peakers down in Glendale, that power plant was an existing natural gas-fired power plant, but they did add those peakers 2 years ago. And you can hear them. They disrupt the neighborhood. And I just think it's the wrong place for a power plant. Thank you.
Thank you. Order, thank you. I have just a couple of questions, and we'll bring up Development Services staff to answer questions from staff's perspective. This actually looks like it affects your entire service area, right? District 3, portions of District 3, portions of District 2, and then a portion of District 1. District 1, which is what I represent, Peach Springs, Truxton, and Terrace, Valentine, Val Vista, Wickiup, Greenwood. Can you tell me what the utility rate difference is going to be between having this and not having this? Because I've received the emails that everybody else has, but within District 1, I've received emails about nobody wants higher utility rates. So that's what I'm trying to look at, seeing what's the delta.
I can tell you right now, we've already had to add 2 cents to our 8-cent rate, so about 25% purchase power adjuster. And if anyone can tell me where the power prices are going, I can tell you where the rates are going. But if they're not going down, then rates are going up. I can't forecast where they're going. You look at the future power on the market, it just keeps going up for the foreseeable future.
If you don't have this and you have to continue purchasing power, I mean, do you purchase it from APS? Who do you purchase the power from?
We purchase it, anyone that has any excess power in the summertime, it's usually some merchant plant that has any left over. It's just their pieces and parts they can sell. But if they need it for their load, then they take it back and you have nothing. So at that time,
that's when rolling blackouts happen?
You got it. There's no power available. Yeah.
Well, I was hoping to drill down into what the utility rate difference would be, because I have a lot of people in my district that are just barely making it, a lot of retayees, and they're very sensitive to utility cost increases. So,
well, if you look at our 2 cent we've heard he had to add, that's where it's headed.
Yeah. I'll listen to what staff has to say, but as far as location are there other options as far as the getting to something that might be viewed as maybe a better fit, as some of the others have stated, or?
Yeah, there could be. We've looked into some on our property. Like I said, the zoning's not there. We can work with developmental services and try to figure that out. The other thing, though, is Kinder Morgan told us this is as far north as we can go and still get the compression out of the gas unit, the gas lines we need. So we have to build a line from their gas line over there, and that's as far as they can guarantee us the pressure to run these units. So there's nothing farther north we could go.
All right, thank you. Supervisor
Chairman, I have a follow-up question. Supervisor Gould talked about the sound, but I was led to believe that that is not correct, that the sound will be barely negligible. That's what I was told. So can you talk to that?
I'd love to address that if they can bring up my slide here. And I don't know what SRP puts on there for sound mitigation, but I know when we talk to the developers that are building this unit, we've asked them to have sound mitigation was one of the things that we put in there. And they said that it'd be 85 decibels at 3 feet away. So look at the chart here, and they didn't put it up here yet.
We get the screen up, please.
85 decibels is equivalent to a noisy restaurant. 428 feet off the facility, which is our southernmost boundary, is 67 decibel, which is normal speech. 1,530 feet from the facility, which is basically our southeastern boundary, which is more than 1,150 feet, by the way, is a dishwasher in the next room. And 2,500 feet, which is our southeastern boundary, is around 40 decibel, which is a quiet urban night. So I understand that SRP may have put something in there without any sound mitigation. These are proposed to have come with sound mitigation. They're not necessarily a jet engine, they're aeroderivative turbine.
Any other questions for the applicant? If we have any other questions, we'll call you back up.
Thank you.
Is there anyone from Development Services on the line? Tim.
Chairman, good morning.
Good morning. Any questions for Development Services staff? Supervisor Bishop.
Yes, my question is, explain what's going on here and the county's position on this particular property.
Chairman Lingenfelter, Supervisor Bishop, be happy to. As was mentioned earlier, this item came before the board back in 2018, April of 2018, and the proposed use at the time was an indoor facility to basically go through mine tailings was my understanding, and basically they would process these mine tailings and pull certain minerals out of the aggregate. It was proposed to be all indoors, and basically all controlled. And when it came before the board, the motion was to approve it, but limited to just that reclamation, that mineral reclamation plant enclosed in a building only. And they also put a condition of a 2-year, basically a 2-year time frame, that if it wasn't met within those 2 years, that the board would then resend it back to the previous zoning. The improvements have not been made. So basically the next step would be to bring it back to the board to have that rescinded. MEC has approached the county in order to extend that. I apologize. Let me make that clear. After 2 years, it was to come back to the board to either grant an extension, determine compliance, or to cause the property to revert to its former zoning. So basically at this point, MEC has asked that extension be granted, and they've also asked that the resolution be amended to remove the condition of the mineral plant only be removed as well. So basically what that would do would make this an MX zone, allowing for this power plant, and give them the time, as much time. Basically, it would give them an extension to be able to make those improvements as well.
Okay, thank you very much. And do you see any problem if we were to approve the extension of time so that they can do the public outreach?
Staff would be happy to entertain whichever direction the board would like to go on this. As is mentioned, we did receive a number of emails through the weekend. When it was presented to the commission, we hadn't received any opposition to the proposal at the time, and the commission approved it unanimously. However, between the commission and now the board meeting, we've received a substantial number of letters and petitions in opposition. So it's, as was mentioned, it's near a residential zone. It's also enclosed within, previous to being zoned as the MX with the conditions, it was zoned for alternative energy and has a land use designation had an alternative energy land use designation as well. In 2018, that changed to heavy industrial, and then the rezone for MX with the very limited condition of the in-house enclosed reclamation plant.
Okay, we heard from MEC that they would be willing to move this plant further away from the residential area if they could get the rezoning for that. Do you see any potential for getting that rezoning approved as a mitigating factor for approving the power plant?
We would be happy to, and we've been working with MEC on this, and we'd be happy to continue to work with MEC on finding a more suitable location if that's what the board would like us to do. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Any other? Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Walsh, I got a lot of complaints from people that they did not see the notice and received no notice. Can you explain how the county would notice this project?
Yes, this project, thank you, Chairman Lingenfelter, Supervisor Gould. This project is, with all of our other projects, we definitely post it on site. So we've posted the property on the property as required by state statute. We also post it in the newspaper and on the county's website. The mailings that go out, and I have my planning and zoning manager, Scott Holtry, on as well. The mailings that go out, he can correct me if I get this wrong, but the mailings that go out reach properties within 300 feet of the site. So as you can see, there, I believe.
Order, thank you.
I'll see if I can share my screen a little bit better. Show you, just given the location of the proposed site, the blue being the proposed site, there are not many properties within that 300 feet. So residences outside that 300 feet would not have received an individual letter notifying them of the change. That is probably why they did not receive an individual notice to themselves, but it was published in the newspapers and posted on site.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that we didn't follow the law, but I think the law is lacking in these particular things when you're only going to notify people from 300 feet around when it affects a greater number of people. It's probably why you had the outpouring of opposition after the planning and zoning meeting, because that's when the folks actually found out what was going on. You had a 2-year limit on that limited MX zoning. Why does these just not automatically come back up? Here we are, five years later, and it still has the saying nothing's gone on. We're past the limit, and here we are looking at a zoning that should have been removed 3 years ago.
Chairman Lingenfelter, Supervisor Gould, that's a great question, and actually one that I've asked myself as well. And what the practice is when we have these temporary conditions, or the condition that it have to be done within a certain amount of time, was something that the county had done for a number of years. We've since pulled away from that, and you won't see that near as much unless it's a pretty significant proposal. For the most part, once it's rezoned, it's rezoned as long as they meet the conditions. In the cases where we do have these timings, the expiration and those types of things, generally those are addressed when a new proposal has come up. It was pretty common practice, I'd say, early 2000s to probably right around 2010, maybe a little bit longer, where the county put these timeframes on almost all of the rezones, that if they didn't get approved, or if they weren't completed within so many years, that it would revert back. And it really created a backlog and really expanded the agendas for both the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Board of Supervisors to rescind all of these issues. So the practice, the Planning and Zoning Department got to the practice of, if something new was proposed on the property, we would look at what the zoning was. And if it was a situation like this where it had expired, at that time we would address those individual issues. But because of the practice of doing this pretty much on a regular basis, it created a number of these that from a workload standpoint, trying to keep track of when each and every one of these expired just became too daunting.
Director Walsh, was I correct when I stated that the zoning previous to April of 2018 was RE 10?
Yes, sir.
And that's a residential 10-acre minimum parcels?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you know what the zoning is for the parcel immediately to the south of the proposed project?
It's AR, it's agricultural residential.
So it says low density residential on that.
Yes.
So those folks would be dramatically affected by the speaker plant, because their property almost abuts it other than the street.
Chairman Lingenfelter, Supervisor Gould, I've just uploaded, or basically I'm sharing a screen that shows both the land uses and the zoning surrounding the blue being the proposed site. So just directly south of land use from the general plan, as you mentioned, Supervisor Gould, is low density residential with the zoning being AR.
Thank you, sir. That's all the questions. Thank you.
Tim, I've got a question I'd like to follow up. Supervisor Gould mentioned the question about why, if activity had not taken place within what the board had voted on if there was a condition and it would revert back to the prior use, that the county had stepped away from that and they weren't doing that anymore. Was that a decision that came from the Board of Supervisors as the policy board, or was that something that came from staff that was administrative and not run by the board?
You know, that's a good question. I'll actually, if I can ask Scott to help me out on that one. I know that's been the practice that we've had for quite some time, that if these zonings expire, we don't basically run a tabulation following all of them to see when they expire and follow up on them. This one itself was somewhat specific in that it wasn't just an automatic, it expires. If it's not done, then it's rescinded automatically. The way that the motion read on this one, it was, if these conditions are not met within 2 years of approval, and if at the expiration of this period, the property has not been improved to meet the use for which it was conditionally approved, the Board of Supervisors, after notification by registered mail to the owner and the applicant who is requesting the rezoning, shall schedule a public meeting to grant an extension, determine compliance with the schedule for the development, or cause the property to revert to its former zoning classification pursuant to ARS Title 11, Chapter 6, 11-814.I. So it was kind of a specific condition on that one. But in general, if we have these that expire, as that property is proposed to be developed or rezoned, at that time we generally will address the expired condition. But Scott, do you have anything to add to that?
That's okay. You don't have to go into that.
Okay.
I don't really know if I agree or support that way of thinking. So it's a larger issue. Maybe we need a board action item to clarify that a little bit more. Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It sounds as if it was supposed to have been sent back to us for a vote on that particular project. I think we're out of compliance.
That's kind of what my point was, is if the board votes on something and it says something, then it should be in effect. And it shouldn't just carry on for 3 more years, whether it's this instance or another instance. I mean, if what we vote on should count, and whatever is in there should happen. So
yes, sir.
I think we should go back to maybe strengthening that a little bit more. I know that it's a lot more work, but that's, I think, kind of the reason that conditions are put on a piece of property in the first place.
Chairman, if I may, not to interrupt, definitely I don't disagree, and I want to ensure the board that those conditions are upheld, and basically that condition that's placed on that property is basically continued, and the intent of the board is enforced with that. As you can see with this one specifically, nothing has happened with that property, and now that something's being proposed, rather than just approving it or saying, hey, you had the zoning, you're good to go, it is coming back to the board to basically to consider that extension along with the amendment. But definitely, your point is well taken.
Great. I'm going to open up call to the public now. We have a number of people that are signed up to speak. I would ask everybody in the audience to first have your cell phones turned to silent or vibrate. As I call you up, please state your name before you start your 3 minutes of testimony. And I'm going to enforce the 3-minute time limit because we have, I'd say, close to 50 people that have signed up to speak. So, Richard Templeman.
Chairman Lingerfelter and Board of Supervisors, my name is Richard Templeman. Live in Mojave County. I live within 2 miles of the proposed project, and I rise in favor of it. I think anybody that lives in Mojave County understands that the county continues to grow, and as it continues to grow, it's going to need additional sources of power to facilitate that growth. And in view of the fact that Mojave Electric Cooperatives District is within that Mojave County, in our county, it only stands to reason that we're going to have them supply more energy as time goes by. Not only energy, but clean energy, as was demonstrated earlier with the comments about the off-all from the power plant, from the proposed power plant. Not only that, but also understand that existing power comes to us from a plant in Benson, Arizona, the bulk of our power. And that is what, 350 some miles away. And those of you that can remember back to August, I believe it was, of 2018, when we lost that power. August. Not the coolest time of the year. I happened to be out of the country and flown back and landed in Orange County, California on that, I guess it was a Friday night when it happened, and called my daughter who worked at Walmart. They were in the process of the local southern, the Walmart store in Mojave Valley, throwing out everything in their produce department, everything in their meat department, not to mention the difficulties from the other stores in the area, the other Super Walmart. We have two Smith's stores, two Safeway stores. Everything that they had under refrigeration was in the garbage. Also, it impacted, I'm sure, the hospitals and those kinds of institutions. In any event, it's critical that we have something locally to prevent that from happening again. And consequently, I think this proposed power plant is just what the doctor ordered. Thank you.
Thank you. Richard Kingsbury, and up next is Jerry Grinstead Jr. You're on deck.
My name is Richard Kingsbury, and I'm here against the proposed MEC plant. The gas-powered plants produce an abundance of toxic waste. These fossil fuel plants produce the hazardous pollutants, which include sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxide, particulate matters, and carbon monoxide and mercury. These are harmful to humans and their environment. These pollutants are known to cause multiple health issues, including asthma, cancer, heart disease, and most important, premature death. Globally, the pollutants cause 1 in 5 deaths in the U.S. Globally, they produce 1 in 5 deaths, and in the U.S., they produce in excess of 350,000 deaths per year. I definitely do not want to believe these, and I am not positive no one in this room wants to. Let's not destroy the clean air that we have here in our desert. These pollutants are also a major cause of water pollution. Let's not contaminate our beautiful lakes and our rivers. These pollutants can also cause climate change. These gas-powered plants also produce methane gas, a very harmful greenhouse gas, and a very volatile one. Also, the EPA guidelines for this type of plant is 3 miles from residential areas, and they want to put this within 1,000 feet of our property. I also have some pictures that I'd be happy to share with the board of what some of these plants look like. They are very large. They're not a small situation. I don't know if you'd like to have these or not.
Supervisor Gould.
Also,
yeah, if you want to put the photos on the podium there, we do have a camera that faces right down on that. See where it says place document there? Yeah, right there. There you go. Can we get the screen up, please? There you go.
they're not a small plant. I wouldn't want them in my backyard, and I'm sure you wouldn't want them in your backyard. They are very close to our properties. The gentleman before me spoke of, he was in favor of more energy. I'm in favor of more energy. I'm in favor of it totally. but not where they're trying to put it, not where there's going to be harmful to everyone here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Jerry Grinstead, Jr. Watch the steps, everybody.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to address this issue, and also for pulling it from the consent calendar. We appreciate that. I would like to speak on this and just have you look at the location. This is under a quarter mile from our homes.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Bishop.
because of the applause, I never heard this gentleman's name.
My name is Jerry Grinstead. I live at 2613 East Nez Perce Road in Fort Mojave. So we are very close to this. This property, if you look back in the history of it, it's pretty interesting how the zoning occurred for the rock crushing plant, and then it was supposed to come back to you, and it didn't. That was a mistake. But most importantly, I've got a wife that suffers with COPD. So I'm here pleading because of that. And if you look at the American Lung Association, the EPA, within 1 mile is not good. Within 3 miles is not good. 300 feet to send out a notice, post signs on the property, whoops, sorry, this size, that's just wrong. You've got to look at this, and I know that one of you said you stood on the property. A neighbor and I also went out and stood on that property. And while there may be a berm of sand between that lot and our homes, it's within 1,200 feet. 1,200 feet. When that thing is emitting, and I want more power, trust me, but when that thing is emitting things into the air, the wind blows from the north, it'll blow right to our house. Finally, I do not want to live in an area, we live within 1,500 feet, that has the sound of a dishwasher going 24 hours a day. That's just wrong. Statistics show people under 64 or over 64 have a potential for health hazard from this. If you look at my neighbors, I think we're starting to push that a little bit. So I really ask that you give this sincere thought. There's other places it can be. We have a big desert out there. Thank you for your time.
Les Duncan.
Good morning, members of the board. Les Duncan, and I live in Sunrise Hills, Valley View, and I am within that affected area. I'd like to say thank you to the board for letting us pulling that from the agenda so you would hear our complaints. We would have actually been at planning and zoning if the Mojave Electric Company hadn't been so devious the way that they posted that, and nobody was ever notified. I mean, did it ever occur to the board why there was no opposition at planning and zoning for this? The reason being because we didn't know. So coming down the road further to this meeting, someone intercepted an email that alerted us of this. So as soon as we got the alert, we went into action. We were able to get 150 people together within 24 hours to oppose this. I believe that Mojave Electric did not do due diligence to notify us that they planned on doing this. Now, we gave them a pass on that solar thing where they're at right now because we didn't oppose it. But this, we're 100% against it. It does not belong in a residential area, for one thing. And their signs, if they did post them, I mean, I can put a Post-it note on a stick in the desert and take a picture and say, okay, I posted this. I travel that road at least 4 times a week down Ashley, back and forth, 4 times a week. And I never one time seen one of their posted signs, or we would have been at planning and zoning. So I'm respectively asking the board to deny their extension of time. That extension of time was for B&R development. It was not for Mojave Electric. But they knew when they purchased that property from B&R, or whoever they purchased it from, and the person handling the real estate deal, I'm sure alerted them of what they're doing right now, that they could actually ramrod this by the public and it would just sail right on through. But we had to keep it from the closest neighborhood. People, Los Largos, for example, I live in Sunrise Hills. All of us are affected by this. According to the EPA, we are affected all the way from 1 mile to 3 miles, which puts it all the way down there to State Road 95. So I plead with you, do not give them the extension of time. Make them go afresh. Make them go back to the Planning and Zoning Commission and apply for new zoning on that location. Thank you.
Dale Smalley.
Good morning, Chairman, Supervisors. My name is Dale Smalley, and I also live in the Sunrise Hills area. And I have been down to that site, but I don't go there very often, unless, like a lot of my neighbors, run side-by-sides. That's not a place you take road vehicles. But I have some of the same complaints that you've heard already. I'll revoice them quickly. Is the Planning and Zoning Commission. I actually, when we got word of this on November 27th, excuse me, I went on your website and watched the meeting, and I was beside myself. There was no questions other than why? Why didn't you do it in the 2 years? Because we bought a new property. Okay, approve, unanimously. There was no opposition because we didn't know. Again, not even posting on the gang mailboxes to tell us what was going on, which would have been simple to do, but no, they didn't. And I would ask the commission, would they have put this in their backyard? I think not. And the heavy rock crushing zoning that was done in 2018 that should have reverted back was all inside, enclosed, filtered air, so they were going to be very careful of what they put out because of the areas. And we're still building in those areas. So there could be people closer than that. And again, like the last speaker, I believe that you should revert back, as it said in the condition before, revert back to the original zoning and start anew, start over. Instead, again, they tried to sneak it through, not wanting us to know. And if it hadn't been for somebody intercepting that email, we wouldn't have known. We wouldn't have known about this meeting today. Obviously, they posted it in a newspaper. Not many of us read newspapers anymore. And we have our websites that we go to, but usually not yours. Beside the obvious health issues that we've talked about, what's it going to do to our property value? Do you want to come and buy my home if I can see these stacks? I think not. And I think almost everyone here, exception of a couple, opposed this. 100% oppose it. We don't want it. I'm not opposed to more electricity. We need it, obviously. I've suffered through some of these blackouts, but not there. We've got thousands of miles of the desert. I'm sure there's a better spot.
Reese Lane.
Thank you.
Reese Lane, I live in Mojave County, have for about the last 5 years. I'm actually for this for a very sound reason. The emergency services and the brownouts. The second you lose power to an area, you lose your emergency services. Then you've got to bring them in from someplace else to get the connection. And then someplace else suddenly doesn't have their emergency services. So if these generators are only going to be run at high peak in the summer, when most of us who are over 65 absolutely have to have air conditioning, for our lungs and whatnot, and then only in emergencies, like when to feed into the line where they lost the power down at the river, what are we looking at? We're looking at a pure safety situation and nothing simpler. I understand what everybody else is saying, but from a pure safety standpoint, this makes absolutely sound sense. Thank you.
I believe this is Hubert McKever. I get everybody to put their cell phones on silent. I do enjoy all the rings, though.
Good morning, Chairman Lingenfeller and board members. I'm Hubert McKeever. I live at 6090 Shelby Road in the Sunrise Valley RV homes. I can see the solar panels that are currently there just to the west of where this proposed plant is from my front door. So, once you get away from where the mounds of dirt are, you can't see over those mounds of dirt, I understand that. But straight down Shelby Road, I can see the solar panels from my front yard, and this plant is proposed to be just to the east and adjoining those solar panels. By Google Maps, it shows that I am 1,400 feet from my front door to the corner of that lot. EPA publications that I have read over the past couple of weeks state that anything within 3 miles is an extremely hazardous area from these gas-fired power plants. One of the other members spoke and said that, the chemicals that are released, one of the studies that I read said that it also releases benzene and formaldehyde. Those are two very dangerous chemicals causing, cancers. They've been linked to ALS, which is amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, Lou Gehrig's disease, something that's extremely dangerous for, especially older people that come in contact with these type of environmental conditions. So I want to just make sure that the board understands that I am definitely opposed to this power plant being there. And I ask your consideration to go reevaluate the planning and zoning and the approval of this. And we do appreciate your time today in taking it off the consent list. Thank you.
Chris Arsenine. Arsenega, thank you.
I want to thank the committee here, the supervisors, the chairman. Thank you for having us here. All right, I totally agree with everything that's going on here. I want power. I want everybody to come in with fossil fuels. It's fossil fuel power, right? So why does this have to be so close to our neighborhood, though? That's what I don't get. I agree with everything they have said over here. I'm not against power. Trust me. One thing I don't see a lot of talk about is actually the concern and safety of these plants. We don't hear about anything about what the wind direction's going, what it does, and that irritates me. Because you know why? I worked in a chemical plant. Some of these emissions that are being allowed to release were released, and it's not good. It's not good at all. NOx, not good. Anybody can look it up. EPA has strong limits to this, okay? All right. So I do not like this thing that went through under the table is the way I look at it. I watched that video after the fact that we found out. There was a video put out of the commission. It was disgusting how fast it went. So I totally oppose this. And at a later date, I will come back and tell you everything that I know about these plants. And I don't know the process of this plant, how they handle these pollutants, but I wish I did. And I don't see anything about a process, what the process is. I do know about turbines, I know about high pressures, and I know about pollutants. Thank you for your time. I oppose this.
Josephine Velez.
Good morning. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Josephine Baez. I am a resident of Valley View at Sunrise Hills, business owner, and a cancer survivor. I reside at 6130 South Shelby Road in Fort Mojave. I moved here to enjoy our beautiful mountains and desert. As a cancer survivor, I do not need any additional risk factors that will affect my health and others. I ask you today to please consider our community and health and well-being and deny their request for an extension and deny this project from moving forward. Thank you.
Ellen Brown.
Good morning, Ellen Brown. I've lived in Mojave County for almost 44 years. I approved this project. From what I've heard, this plant will be used mostly during emergency situations. It's not going to run 24/7, as some have said. When we are short of power during the high peak season in the summer, or we have serious power outages, this is going to supply that supplemental power for us. And we need that to avoid going out on the open market and paying exorbitant rates for the power that California's in the same market. And we know supply and demand, when there's more demand than the supply, then the prices go up and up and up, and that's what's happening now in the open market. So this power plant will prevent that from happening, prevent Mojave Electric from going out on the open market during those high peak periods. So again, it's not going to run 24/7, just during the high peak periods, and that's why I approved this project. Thank you.
Roz Rossentrader.
Hello, my name is Roz Rosentrader, and I'm in favor of this project. I think that it's important that we have reliable power. We endured the power outage last year, and with having a husband who was in hospice and was on oxygen and everything, we need to have reliable power. I know this plant's not going to be running all the time. I understand the people's concerns about it being an eyesore and everything, but I think we need reliable power, and we don't want to pay the rates like we did in California. I'm used to the rolling outages in California. I'm used to what the California power rates are. They're astronomical. Most people here are retired or we're on fixed incomes, and we cannot afford to have to go out on the market and buy our electricity at whatever rate they want to set for the day. Okay, thank you for listening.
Barbara Pape.
Good morning, Chairmen and Supervisors. My name is Barbara Pape at 3908 Jamboy Way in Bullhead City. I've been a Mojave County resident for 17 years, and I love this place. I support MEC's backup plan. This is a backup plan. And let me tell you, I'm really concerned with the emergency, all the emergency services. Once it goes down, our energy goes down. We can't get the fire department, can't get the police department, can't get into the hospitals. The hospitals are on their generators, but we need this power. We have people over here expressing their concern about the environment. But what about if their energy sources, they can't use them? So we need to keep this backup plan. It's only a temporary, or not a temporary, but it's a backup plan to make sure we have energy. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Carol Hoker or Moker? Carol, thank you.
Hi, my name is Carol Hooker, and I live at 6178 South Vanderslice Road, Fort Mojave, in the Valley View Sunrise Hills subdivision. I had a whole speech set up to give to you guys. I am appalled at these people being allowed to come in here and say it's not going to run all night, it's only for emergencies. Even the developer doesn't know what this plant's going to do, how it's going to act, what it's going to look like. This is obnoxious. This was pushed through. I am disappointed in the county. I am disappointed in MEC. We are not even MEC customers. We are Unisource. Sounds like Unisource will not see any of that power, any of it, the way he described it. My house is going to be for sale if anyone would like to buy it. If this plant goes through, I am going to lose everything. I just turned 70 years old, retired here with my husband and my disabled son. I am a cancer survivor, and I really don't appreciate the fact that anybody would have the gall to put this in as close as it is to our houses. I don't know where you were standing, but there's rooftops. I don't know where you guys were standing. There are washes out there, and that's flood control. By the way, this plant is in the immediate path of the flood control zone. If it floods, which it does frequently out where we are, it's going to be floating down to the highway. They can pick it up down there if they want to. Yes, I'm a fiery redhead, and you pissed me off, and it just gets my goat. I do want to say to you, though, there was one thing. When we did find out about this exactly 1 week ago today, we found out about this, and we have rallied because our livelihoods and our homes and our properties are at stake. There was a information sheet created that we received with the actual application. We don't know who created the information sheet, but it had all the facts about all of the carcinogens and all of that stuff. There was a line in the information sheet buried that I found that just angered me to the hilt. And it actually sounds like what a coach would say at the end of a game when they won by 1 point, and I'm quoting this. MEC got lucky, not so much so for the Fort Mojave residential community. Now tell me this wasn't planned and we didn't get the end round.
Can I ask a question?
I oppose this being put where it's being put. You can put it anywhere you want, but not by our house.
Thank you.
Period.
Supervisor
I have
Angus?
a question. I just have a question that the fact sheet you were talking about, where did that come from? That wasn't came from MEC, it just came from your, the,
It arrived with the actual application. We don't know who wrote it.
okay, but it wasn't MEC. Okay, okay, okay.
Ted Martin.
Good morning, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year. Ted Martin, 1740 East Valley Parkway in Mojave Valley. Members of the Mojave Electric Co-op are all share owners in the company. So we're all part of what makes up Mojave Electric Co-op. And there's 3 districts that shows you the size of the population that this district serves. I'm very much in favor of this project. Even if this project operated 24/7, 365, it would be nice to have our own generating plant within our own district. The property is owned by Mojave Electric, so it's in the district. It's not Unisource's, it's owned by the co-op, so it's in the district. We own it. So this plan has been something that just wasn't shot under the table. If they'd go to the electric co-op annual meeting and understand what the co-op's doing, they would know what direction the co-op wants to go in and how they want to get there. There's a situation not far from their houses that exists today, exactly what they're talking about. Calpine Electric Plant, which has been operating every day for the last month, operates, and within a quarter of a mile is Topak Lake Ridge Harrows, which is a residential subdivision. So this situation already exists. So all I can say is this is a situation that I don't want it in my backyard. It's putting fear out there by getting inaccurate information about what the emissions are going to be. It already exists. It's already there. I didn't see any pictures of Calpine showing the plant. I didn't see anybody go down there and say, I stood outside a Calpine plant and I could hear it running, because you can stand out there and not hear it operating at all. So, like I said, it's a situation where I think people are putting a lot of fear and they don't want it in my backyard, but what it's gonna mean to electrical distribution and electrical generation in our county and what it serves, I think it's gonna take, it makes a lot of sense and is very important. And if you don't think that the water situation is serious and how we're dealing with the water situation and what fighting we're having to do to make sure our resources stay local with regards to water, it's going to be the same thing with electricity. We're going to be in the same boat. So again, I'm for it and I support this project. Thank you.
Lisa Farrell. Order, please. Order, please. Lisa Farrell.
Good morning. My name is Lisa Farrell. I live on Lippin Court in Fort Mojave and have for the 15 years that I've been a Mojave County resident. That is within 3 miles of the proposed site. I have a 17-year-old that lives with me, and he will be taking over that house from me. I support the proposed natural gas project because it helps us keep the power generation local, improves the efficiency, reliability, while keeping our electricity affordable, which is definitely needed in our low-income area. I'll keep it short because I know there are others that need to speak. Thank you.
Heath Barker. No booze, please. Order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Supervisors. I'll keep this short. I've been living in Mojave County for about 41 years. I took a few years off to go play in the military, came back from there. I want to thank you for having a free and open discussion. I'm not appalled by discussing things. I do want to say I'm in support of any kind of energy options within inside of our valley, because keeping it here, we're not relying on transmission lines potentially going down. I have a small family. We lived here in the Bullhead area now, and when we lost power at Labor Day, it was pretty brutal. 115 degrees. I get being concerned about noise. By the way, a rooster is about 165 decibels. That's an RA area, which you can have roosters there. Maybe complain about roosters and not power generation, but that's me. Anyways, thank you.
Thank you. William Nilsson.
Good morning. I'm William Nielsen. I live at 5219 Southwest Wind Drive. I've been a Fort Mojave resident for over 30 years, and I thank you for the opportunity to comment. As a crow flies, I live less than a mile from the proposed project, and I fully support MEC's plan for clean natural gas generation in addition to their solar arrays. A localized source of power generation would likely shorten the duration of a catastrophic outage like we suffered through last September. Green energy is important to all of us, and natural gas generation is more reliable than any solar field is when the sun's not shining. I applaud MEC's efforts to provide the residents of the Mojave Valley with an additional source of clean, reliable energy, and thank you again for the opportunity to speak. I would like to add, Supervisor Gould, that you do have constituents on both sides of Vanderslice, and so hopefully you'll listen to all of us.
Thank you. Courtney Nixon.
Hello, thank you. My name is Courtney Nixon, and I have lived over in Fort Mojave, over on Ruby Court, for the last 10 years. I support MEC's natural gas project because we will have reliable power locally. Keeping it very short, thank you.
Thank you. Jared White.
Good morning, Chairman. My name is Jared White. I'm a resident of 2021 Primavera Lane, Fort Mojave, Arizona. I have been in Mojave County for 22 years, roughly, with a couple years in college. Fairly educated. I've spent a lot of time doing research, whatnot. I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to comment. I'm here today to say that I fully support MEC and APCO's plan for affordable and reliable energy. The natural gas generators that are being proposed will not only take some strain off our grid, but they are also cleaner. With lower emissions, the environment is important to all of us, and I'm glad to see that the steps that Mojave Electric is taking to produce cleaner energy. We need to support this plan if we want to continue to enjoy dependable and affordable energy. Thank you.
Jeremy Brunk.
Hello, my name is Jeremy Brunk, and I live at 5367 North Prairie Heights Drive in Kingman, Arizona. I support the Mojave Electric's natural gas regeneration project. I'd like to say that. Thank you.
Leilani Yamamoto. Leilani Yamamoto, thank you.
morning. My name is Leilani Yamamoto. I've been in Mojave County for 15 years. I do support the solar panels for MEC. I do, the emergency is important. I have 2 boys that are hemophilia. Last year sucked. It was 115. Had to stay in my car to keep them cool. They can't be in the heat. So I support Mojave Electric. Thank you.
Monique Sona? Monique Sona? Great, thank you.
Good morning, I'm Monique Soria. I live in Bullhead City. I've been a resident for 31 years. I just want to say that I support Mojave Electric natural gas generation project. I think it'll be a good thing for us to have a backup or even just a safety in general. Just like the rest of us, we survived the heat. It was brutal, but I just want to say I support the project. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Chris Teskey?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Chris Teskey. I've lived in Fort Mojave for about 3 years now. I support this movement right here. The reason being is because not all of us are over 50, 60 years old. Some of us want to start a family, and then, when the power goes out, what are you gonna do with those kids? Just have them sit there in the heat? Not really. I was in the U.S. Army over in Fort Irwin, California, right next to Death Valley. I was a U.S. Army tanker, and 120, 130 degree heat in a tank is not fun. A steel box. So, if you guys don't know, tanks are, what do you call them? They're the turbine jets. So those things, you can talk in front of them and have a normal conversation just like this, and it'll sound perfect. I don't know if you guys were tankers, but, and for the people that don't want this to happen, that are worried about pollution and all that other stuff, I guarantee you that there are also people that denied wearing a mask during COVID. Thank you.
Order. Joe DiLorento. Order, please.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. My name is Joe DiLorenzo. I live at 4846 Casilla Court in Fort Mojave, Arizona. I have been a Mojave County resident 19 plus years. I support the natural gas project because it reduces costs over time by improving efficiency and avoiding expensive market power purchases, keeping Mojave electric rates affordable. Thank you for having me.
Stephen Jones.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Stephen Jones. I've lived in Bullhead City for the past 15 years. I'm right now in support of the natural gas generation project through MEC. A lot of us have talked about us losing power about a year ago. I work with a company, Irving Cable Construction. We worked really closely with MEC's people to get everybody's power back up as quickly and as fast as possible. With this new natural gas generation project, this will help us in case we have emergencies like that again. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Felix Rodriguez.
Good morning. My name is Felix Rodriguez. I live at 2612 Calle de Mercado in Bullhead City. I've been married for 33 years. I have 3 wonderful children and a loving wife who hasn't killed me for my life insurance policy yet. I support Mojave Electric's natural gas generation project. Thank you for your time.
Kevin Nestrick.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity. My name is Kevin Nestrick. I live at 2680 Country Club Drive, Bullhead City, Mojave County, Arizona. I have been a resident of Bullhead City, Mojave County for 46 years. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. I'm here today to say that I support MEC's plans for affordable and reliable energy. I am a retired pharmacist and business owner. Throughout my 50-year career in the healthcare field, I have embraced change through innovation and technology. The technologies being presented by MEC for this gas generation plant is at the leading edge of technology within the power generation. It is not the awful-looking smokestacks that once habitated Laughlin's skyline. That is not what's being presented. It also will provide us energy backup power for our hospitals, fire departments, police, and sheriff's departments, as well as cooling centers during emergency outages. I support Mojave Electric's plan and vision of the future. Thank you.
Chris Morgan. And then Marilyn Meyer is up.
Good morning, board members. Wherever Travis ran off to, hope he's having a good time. I'm going to start off with this picture. Can you get that up on the board, please? This is what the power plant down on Courtright looks like. This is what MEC is proposing to do. I'll even let you see them side by side, the difference in these things. Super efficient, very low emissions, noise is minimal. I come here, and I didn't introduce myself, I'm Chris Morgan. I am the chairman of the Food for Family Food Bank. We lost a ton of food when we had the outage. Excuse me. So we need to ensure that this doesn't happen again. We feed over 2 million pounds of food comes through our food bank every year. So we need to ensure that we're not throwing food out. It's hard enough to get it in, and we need to make sure we have what we have. Unless the county wants to put up a, nice big generator to preserve our food, at a $250,000 cost, that's just not gonna happen. This is not a bad deal. It's gonna produce, and it's called a quick start system for a reason. This is not something that runs online at idle speed. When they need it, it pops up. They're only gonna use it when we're low on power during, emergencies. We don't wanna be held hostage from these people in California that, cause more problems with their electric cars. The grid there won't support them. They're more worried about cows eating grass and farting and making the, greenhouse effect. It's a joke. We cannot be held hostage by people outside our state. Tyler Carlson has done a phenomenal job making sure that MEC is top notch on everything they do. This is not going to be a fly-by-night job. It will produce, it's going to be safe, and I'm sorry for the people that live close by.
I'm 2 miles away. It just is something that makes sense at this point. And I will see you guys all later. Thanks.
May I ask a question, Chairman?
Please.
Chris, Mr. Morgan, that picture, where did you get that picture?
That picture was given to me through MEC.
Right, okay.
No. Hey.
Order.
Laugh all you
Order.
want.
Well,
This is the difference between 30-year-old technology and new technology.
Right, can we get a copy of that, please?
I'm sure they would love to do that for you. And I will put that off to them.
I'm going to get through the rest of the call public and we'll call you up.
I asked them for this because I left mine at home.
Okay, duly noted. Thank you.
Okay.
Marilyn Meyer.
Good morning. My name's Marilyn Meyer. I've lived in Mojave County for 5 years. I support the MEC natural gas project. I'm going to make this short and sweet. Thank you.
Norris, Sweden.
So my name is Norris Sweden. I normally don't come up. So for you two to actually go over there and say you guys stood there and looked at it, that's kind of a joke because you didn't see anything. I get it. Everybody wants more power. When the power went out, yeah, it sucked. It really did. We called the fire department to come help us get our community out, get the power lines out. You know what the fire department told me? Not my job. Not my job to come get residents out. I get all these people. I'm 45 years old, so just like the other gentleman from the Army, I'm a veteran, Navy. At 35 years old, I was diagnosed with heart failure. You want to know why? Chemicals. I spent 6 years in Iraq and Afghanistan. So now you want to stick this and get me exposed even more. Not you, or you would put it in your backyard. Guarantee you.
Kimber Kemp.
Good morning. My name is Kimber Kemp. I have lived in Fort Mojave and Mojave County for about 4 years. I do support this project for the reason being of the emergency backup. Up until recently, I was a Unisource customer, and last Labor Day, I was out of power for 7 days. I have 2 small children, and I had to live in a hotel for a week, which was not cheap. So to be able to have a
Order, please.
to be able to have that backup power to be able to rely on, to be able to get onto electrical service. In the community that I lived in when that happened, there was a lot of elderly that could not afford hotels, and a lot of them ended up in the hospital because of the heat. So just to be able to provide emergency backup for the hospitals, fire departments, and the elderly, I think that's just a really big thing. So I support this project. Thank you.
Tyler Weldon.
Good morning. My name is Tyler Weldon. I've been a resident of Mojave County for 13 years. I think this project, which I'm in favor of, solves quite a few issues. Again, we hear a lot about reliability, about people coming up and getting power in times of need. We also talk about rates. We're talking about costs. I think Chairman Langenfelter, you had mentioned some of your constituents were, wondering about the rates and, how that was going to go. But this would definitely help in that instance. So for those 2 reasons, I support. Thank you.
Brenda Seymour.
Hi, my name is Brenda Seymour. I live on Citrus Street in Fort Mojave, Mojave Valley. I do support MEC's natural gas project. These are quick ramping units that will especially be useful in the peak times of the summer, and we need reliable power at the most. Also, for those of who are in doubt, if my backyard was big enough to fit one of the power plants, I would put it there. Thank you.
Christine Owens.
Thank you, Chairman and Supervisors. My name is Christine Owens. I've been a Mojave County resident for 30 years. I support the natural gas project because it reduces cost over time by improving efficiency and avoiding expensive market power purchases and keeping our costs down for all of our members. Thank you.
Heather Fedman. Sorry if I got that wrong. Foreman, thank you.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for letting us speak. I live at Sundial Drive in Bullhead City, and I have been a Mojave
Could you state
County.
your name for the record? I'm sorry to interrupt you. Could you state your name?
Yes, my name is Heather Foreman.
Thank you.
I have been a Mojave County resident. I've lived in the area since 2010, and I support the natural gas project because it reduces cost over time. A lot of people are having issues with the affordability, and the rates would definitely increase. Often the cost of electricity on the market is higher in the summer months because of the desert climate and supply availability. Without the natural gas units, residents will be exposed to high market power purchases, potentially raising the summer months bills to prices that are unaffordable for MEC residents. So I would definitely support this. Thank you.
Marlon Cortez.
Good morning, Chairman and Supervisors. My name is Marlon Cortez. I live in Fort Mojave, and I've been a resident in Mojave County for 26 years. I'm here today in support of the gas generation project proposed for Mojave County. I've lived here for most of my life, and we all know what the weather's like. And I've experienced these power outages, and it's not pleasant, especially when it's 115 degrees outside. Most of us depend on MEC for power in the area. So I know they try to keep their rates as low as they can while maintaining reliability, but how could they do this if the population is increasing and the rates keep going up? How can they sustain the grid like this? From what I've heard about these generators, they only kick in when they are needed, and they run much cleaner, more efficient than the older ones at other plants. This will also help MEC's overall resources and also support their solar projects as well. We need to stand behind this project to ensure that MEC can provide us with affordable power and reliable power. Thank you for your time.
Keith Marino.
Good morning. My name is Keith Marino, and I have lived in Bullhead City for about 25 years now. I support the natural gas project because it will help cut costs over time by improving the efficiency and helping to avoid the exposure to the open market. Often the cost of electricity on the market is higher in the summer months for MEC because of the desert climate and the availability. We all know California, when exposed to the market, will suck it away as fast as possible. Without the natural gas units, residents will be exposed to these high power costs, potentially raising the summer months bills to prices that are unaffordable to MEC's members. Thank you.
Tony Barbaro.
Good afternoon, almost. Chairman and supervisors, I'm very pleased to be here today because I've lived in Mojave County and Bullhead City now for 43 years. I raised my family here. I know progress is hard to accept for a lot of us, but without progress, we become stalemated. And MEC has progressed us as far as we can go and wants to progress us even further so that we are able to sustain our members and the people around us, including Unisource if necessary. It's not just for one, but for all. I think that by now you understand that I support MEC's position as far as the peak generation of the gas units and how important it is for our stability and our growth. We can't stop progress. It has to come sometime. And if you try and stop it because you're afraid, you lose. And you lose big. Thank you for letting me be here.
Jose Soler.
Good morning. My name is Jose Solar, and I have lived in Mojave County for over 10 years now. And I am here to fully support the gas generators that Mojave Electric is proposing. I believe that it is going to keep our utility rates at a reduced price. And let us not forget that Mojave Electric is a co-op, which means that we all pay the price. We're paying for that gas generation, but we expect our return on that investment. So, while I sympathize with all the opposition to it because of the health issues, I understand that progress has to be made, and sometimes we just have to weigh the options available to us. Thank you.
Matt Blitch. Last speaker and on deck is Rob Frederick.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Supervisors. My name is Matt Blitch. I live at 2816 Sidewheel Drive in Bullhead City, Arizona. I've been a Mojave County resident for 4.5 years. I'm also the general manager at Nucor Steel Kingman. Nucor has been a successful business in Mojave County for 13 years. We employ 125 persons today. That will expand to 200 by the end of next year. We're expanding our operations, and reliable and affordable power is a necessity for us and for more businesses to expand as well. Nucor has a joint power agreement with Mojave Electric Co-op and the Arizona Electric Power Cooperative. With high-priced power costs in the open market, any local generation that will reduce the dependence on imports from this market will increase reliability and decrease our costs. If these units aren't built, MEC may not be able to provide the increased power its members need and will force curtailment shutdowns, especially to Nucor and other large businesses, which negatively affects Nucor, its employees, and the county. These units are key for MEC to continue providing reliable, affordable power to Mojave County residents and businesses, and to allow for the expansion of Nucor's plant, which is a substantial boost to the local economy, bringing in an additional $15 to $20 million worth of taxable income to for our new jobs, and every job we create, it supports about 4 to 5 jobs in the area. As a resident and a representative of Nucor in Mojave County, I support the natural gas project, and this extension of time will allow for a full analysis to be done
as will full public comment period as required by ADEQ. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Rob Frederick.
Mr. Chairman, Board of Supervisors, my name's Rob Frederick. I live at 3368 Ridge Run Avenue in Bullhead City. This year marks my 40th year as a Mojave County resident. I'm here today to voice my support for Mojave Electric's plan for natural gas generation. Having lived in Bullhead City and Fort Mojave for most of my life, I know how extreme our summers can get. I've witnessed my share of power outages during the monsoon, so I understand that electricity is not a luxury, but a necessity to support life. These generators are much smaller and cleaner than traditional generation. Local access to electricity from these generators during a power outage or extreme pricing caused by California is vital to the safety and well-being of our community. I also want to make a point that during the Labor Day outage a year ago, when everybody said, you know, all the stores lost their food, everybody thinks, okay, well, Smith's, they're a corporation, they have insurance. Walmart, you know, they have insurance, they can write it off. It hit us. I lost the food in my fridge, but it was more than that. I couldn't get any. There was none in Bullhead City to buy. The emergency crews that came in to help out could not get any food. All the restaurants were closed. All the grocery stores were out of food because it all rotted. Having an emergency backup in this area is necessary. And for those who are in Unisource's territory, they say that they will not get electricity from this. However, all the emergency services that provide services to them get electricity from Mojave Electric. Their hospitals, their fire stations, the cooling stations that are set up for emergency, those require Mojave Electric's generation. Thank you.
That's the last speaker. What's the pleasure of the board? Supervisor Gould.
The question is not really power generation, but whether or not this is the correct location for a power plant. There's no question we need additional power, but do we need additional power next to a residential neighborhood? I don't think so. My other question is, I don't believe during the storm last Labor Day that you lost your connection to the grid. I believe you lost your wiring inside of your system, not the connection to the grid.
We did lose connection to the grid. Those big 230 lines.
Speaking to the microphone a little closer, thank you.
Yeah, we did lose connection to the grid. Those big 230 lines that feed our power, they went out as well.
When do they come back up, though?
24, 30, 18, 36 hours later.
I remember something slightly different, but we can beg to differ on that.
That's fine.
But I'm not convinced that this power plant would replace that.
It wouldn't replace the 230 lines going out? I don't understand the question.
That it would power up the things that were down in the advent of that you lost those wires again.
Well, absolutely, it would. We could show you maps of the 69 system that feeds right to those places. I don't understand your question, honestly.
Order, please.
I think we beg to differ on that, but Mr. Chairman, I motion to deny.
We have a motion, but Supervisor Angus.
Well, you know what? I have some questions, but these questions will be answered. If this were to go through, all these questions, there's minutes, we're not there. They're not going to start building. There's all these permits that need to get, public hearings. I think that there's a lot of information out there that may or may not be wrong, and you'll learn more about it. So I think the things I wanted to ask, they will be answered in the weeks and months if it were to go through.
I do have a couple of questions. My vote depends on this project does affect my District 1 residents in Belvis and other areas. I thought I heard you say, and I want to make sure that this is what you said, that 100% of this power is not going to be sent to California, or any percent of this power is not going to be sent to California. 100% of this power is going to be used by Mojave County residents. Is that accurate or not?
Correct. Yes, sir.
You're on record with saying yes? Yeah.
Yes, sir. Now, Well, one thing is if City of Needles needs emergency power, they're a utility bias. If they tie into something for emergency service, that may be the exception. Aha Macab is right there. They may have some territory over there in California. I don't know their exact service territory, but we're not selling any of this to California utilities.
Well, my point is I'm absolutely against companies coming here and using our resources and then shipping all the power west.
And so are we, like
in
South.
California and Los Angeles and all these places. They can go do that somewhere else.
So are we.
The other thing I want to talk about and ask about, order please, is we absolutely have a siting issue. Clearly that's the issue, is the siting issue. So mitigation wise, if this were to go forward, what above and beyond can MEC do to mitigate the concerns here of these residents that showed up and they had their voices heard at the podium here? What can MEC do to further mitigate the negative aspects of this?
So if we're allowed to move farther into our property, that's a Mojave County question for zoning. If we're allowed to move farther into the property, we can move farther away. ADEQ will address all of these potential concerns, and they will not allow us to build if there's these huge concerns everyone's worried about. That's their process.
And again, you can't speak precisely to what the rate increase would be if this didn't go through. I mean, because that's really what I'm hearing from my folks that are retirees and things like this. They're telling me last summer they saw a couple of bills, $350, $400, and that becomes hard when inflation has made food prices go up 20 to 25%.
What I can tell you, Chairman Lingenfelter, is currently to pay for the power we paid for the last 3 years, we're gonna have to put a 2-cent purchase power adjuster, which is about a 25% higher than our rates are set to collect. If this continues, we'd have to keep buying on the power. I'd assume that those prices keep increasing.
Appreciate that. I am concerned with the mitigation of the impacts to the surrounding area. Supervisor Angus, did you have something that you wanted to say?
I just have one more question, because a lot of the people are in Unisource area. Is there anything stopping Unisource from benefiting from this to help their customers during emergencies, other than the obvious being a competitor?
No, it's really engineering. They have to basically tie the 69 system to their transformers and stuff. It's a very cost-effective solution. And I've talked to some people at Unisource. I think the reaction from them was, yeah, that'd be fine. They'd like to work through something. I can't speak for Unisource, obviously, but there's nothing stopping them from doing that or stopping Mojave Electric working with them to do that. And not just Unisource, Aha Macab, City of Needles, anything that's tied to that 69 system.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the board? We do have a motion on the floor. It has not been seconded yet.
Chairman Lingenfelter.
Supervisor Bishop.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to see this continued if you're willing to go through the process to see if we can rezone the other property that you own, moving the plant a little bit further away from the residential area. So I don't know how you feel about that. If this was continued, would you be willing to go forward and see if you can get that rezone? And if not, then bring this back and see if you can get approval at that time.
So I said my following. So you say no extension of time this time. We try to rezone the farther portion. If that doesn't happen, we do this discussion all over again.
Right.
I mean, you could do, to me, an extension of time allows us to do those things. It doesn't stop the process. Any month that we wait is another summer we're going to be without power. So I'd much rather do the opposite of that, get the extension of time, work with ADEQ, start the process, as well as work with Mojave County to build a better site.
Okay, so if this motion does not pass, and we go ahead and approve what you'd like to do, you will continue with the rezone of the other property?
Absolutely.
Potentially moving it further away?
Absolutely. If Tim and his staff will accept that, we'll definitely talk
Order,
about
please.
that.
Okay, thank you.
We have a motion on the floor. I'm going to call it motion dies for lack of a second.
Chairman Lingenfelter.
Supervisor Bishop.
I will now make a motion to approve Resolution 2023-223 as written on the agenda, with the understanding that MEC will go forward and try to rezone the other property.
Second.
You've heard that motion and second. Any additional discussion?
Roll call vote.
We've had a request for a roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
Supervisor Angus?
Yes.
Supervisor Johnson?
Yes.
Supervisor Bishop?
Yes.
Supervisor Gould?
No.
Chairman Lingenfelter?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1.
Order.
My car is parked 1,400 feet right out front. That's where it'd be sitting.
We're going to move to item number 30. Item number 30 on consent. We're going to wait for a moment to let people clear.
This expired. It expired. Should not move forward. That's wrong. You need to start all over.
Take a little break.
We're going to take a 2-minute break. Or recess for 2 minutes. I'm going to call the meeting back to order. Item number 30, I pulled item number 30. I had some questions about it. This is the printing and the mailing of election materials by Runbeck Election Services. They're citing the Mojave County Procurement Code, Article 3, Section 8, competition impracticable. I first had a question about that. I don't think I fully support that. I mean, maybe approving this just for the printing of the presidential preference election stuff. I think there's still enough time to do a procurement for both the primary election and the general election. Can somebody, Recorder Durst?
Good afternoon, Chairman and Board. Alan and I are here to answer any questions. For the contract, we're doing it as competition impractical just for the time frame. Our current contract expires January 5th. We're currently in the process of doing statutory notices to registered voters eligible for the PPE, and then we'll be doing ballot printing for the presidential preference election.
Right, that's what I thought, the presidential preferences in March, probably not enough time to go out for another procurement to do printing of those ballots and all those materials, but the primary is in August, right? So you've got, good 8.5 months to get something out and either find a new cooperative or do an RFP. Would it be detrimental if this was just approved for the primary or the presidential preference, and then there was a full-blown procurement done for the ballots on the primary and the general?
I can give you the recorder opinion on that. So we have been in a cooperative agreement under Pinal County. In the end of October, it was brought to our attention that Pinal County may not continue that agreement. So we took it to our procurement department and worked with them to create our own contract, as there would no longer be another cooperative agreement in Arizona for us to follow. I myself am happy with the services Runbeck provides us of mass mailing and printing and mailing our ballots. I would like to keep them for all of 2024, but if you'd like us to go out to contract or to bid, we would just have to look at the time frame of that. I have statutory notices to be mailed out in May, and then ballots to be mailed out in July. So if we looked right after the presidential preference, I'm not sure if that would be enough time for procurement.
Chairman Langenfelter, Director Acton would like to chime in, and she is online.
Terrific. Yeah, let's get her.
Tara?
Director Acton.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Recorder Durst. I just wanted to speak to the contract itself. We could approve this contract as written if directed to do so by the board. If you were to ask us to go out to bid or look for other cooperatives, we may be able to do that. I don't know the details of the scope. We have historically used a cooperative contract, so I don't want to make any promises. This contract does allow us to terminate with 30 days written notice. So you could essentially approve this contract as written to at least allow us to get through the presidential preference election, and then maybe come back to you with a plan if we are able to get our own RFP out, or if we continue to believe that this is the best method. As Recorder Durst shared, the issue is the contract. We were notified by Pinal County that they were not going to extend this contract, and there just was not enough time for us to go through a process and be able to meet all of the recorder's deadlines.
Thank you for that information. It makes sense to me. I'm certainly only one member of our board, but I would be comfortable with approving this just for the presidential preference, and I'd love to hear if there's time to go through Mojave County's own procurement. And there's no reason, correct me if I'm wrong, if Director Acton is still there, that we couldn't make a Mojave County contract for printing of election ballots a cooperative contract. So long as that language is competitively solicited with that language in it, then you might have other counties or others that decide to piggyback off of our contract. Is that not correct, Director Acton?
Thank you, Chairman Lingenfelter. Yes, that is correct. We could do our own cooperative procurement process. I think where I'm concerned is the timeliness of this. Generally speaking, from the time that we have a well-defined scope to the time that we're ready to make an award recommendation to the board on simple requests for proposals, we're looking 90-ish days. With something that's as contested and as hot a topic as elections and ballot printing, I think if we were to try to do something cooperative and open it up to the entire state or others to use, it may take longer. And I think that's why our thoughts were at least getting through this election process. It may be best to do a 1-year agreement and be working on what we will be doing for the future, but we'll work on whatever the board directs us to do.
Director Acton, do you know how many public agencies were utilizing that prior cooperative contract?
I don't actually. Alan or Lydia would probably be better with that one because they are who have done the research to determine what made sense for us to use.
Director Tempert or Recorder Durst, was that prior cooperative contract, was that a go-to in the county for others, or are there others?
I don't have the answer on how many counties use the cooperative contract. I just have the answer of how many jurisdictions that they print for. That's 12 jurisdictions in Arizona, and the only cooperative contract was Pinal County.
Well, I think that the fact that they didn't renew it, I think that there's a real opportunity for Mojave County to step in with our award-winning procurement department and our top-notch elections director to really put a contract in place that can be used on a cooperative basis. I think that's a good opportunity for Mojave County. The other thing I wanted to talk about and open it up to discussion with the board on was, I know that Senator Borelli and others, they did a presentation a long time ago on some things that we can do with the fact that Mojave County is 100% in control of printing our ballots. I know that some of those things didn't go through at the state level, but at the county level, I know that Mojave County may have had like a perforated tab on the top of our ballots at one point, and maybe we could do something like that with a QR code so people could track their ballot, know exactly where it is. I know that Senator Borelli mentioned like a hologram or a watermark that could be added to the ballots. I mean, are these some things that Mojave County could incorporate into our ballots?
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman Lingenfelter. Well, the answer is most likely. I'll give you a little bit of a history, what I can recall, 2 years ago is a long time for me to try to remember stuff, quite honestly, but about 2 years ago, after the legislative session, Senate bill, we had Senator Borelli, Representative Cobb, and Representative Biasucci come in and discuss this ballot fraud paper, or whatever the terminology you want to use, that they were looking into. The bill, which passed into law, was a may versus a shall, and counties may, if they adopt there's 10 different criteria that they feel, I believe it's 10, I'm saying 10, it's like 10 or something like that they wanted to use 3 of the 10 for authenticity, okay? Got it. So they took that information and they started here. I believe they started here. We're always very fortunate to be the very first to talk about certain things sometimes. But they started here and they gave a presentation. Now, what that did is that spurred them going across the state and probably went to all 15 counties. I can't see that they didn't. I'm just assuming that they did. And I know they went to other counties with my counterparts. And they were discussing, the feasibility of doing so. In the meantime, many of us use Runbeck Printing, which is what this contract's about, this one we're having right now, which is I just got to say they're a very, very good organization. I'm just letting you know that. And we spoke with the chief operating executive officer, president, I think as a matter of fact, Ron Beck, and he did a little bit of looking into what can and can't be done. And what I do remember from this is things can be done, okay? Things can be done one way or another, okay? Whether it's but there's 3 things to consider here. And if you're going to go to a bid process, this is what we got to take into consideration when you're writing it in. Number 1 is the producer of the paper. The producer of the paper can put certain things in it, like foil, markings, watermarks, little fibers that when you put under ultraviolet lights and whatevers, okay? And then you got to take into consideration the printer, who then can do certain of those measures. They know which measures they can and can't do. I know that. I just kind of remember hearing that 2 years ago. They know which ones they can and can't institute. We're just pretending they're the only printer in town. Just pretend for this sake of this argument. The only one this was spoken with, okay? So they know that they can do certain types of things. The real key is this: the ballot tabulator. The company that tabulates the ballots, the software, which ours is election systems and software. Now, whether they can sign off and say, because they got exact specifications, it is like 90-pound paper, opaque white. There's specific paper that they say, this is the paper printers will use for our ballots to tabulate. Now, whether they'll tabulate or not with stuff inside of them or not, you know, or things printed in certain areas, we'd have to figure that out and tabulate correctly. We don't know this. I don't know this answer, to be honest with you, which can be looked into if that's what the board would like me to do, you know, going down the road, because if we're going to do a bid type of thing. So there are possibilities that they might say, you know, no. They say, you know, we can't do this. But they might say, yes, we can. Or we can do this, this, and this. We can guarantee, but it would have to go through an awful lot of testing. Now, well, the real key with the ballot tabulation software group is this. Anytime they change the software, inside, it has to go to the Elections Assistance Commission for certification. And that process takes sometimes up to 2 years to change the slightest thing. This isn't an Allen thing. This thing takes up to 2 years to get on and millions of dollars to do so. So when we get new software updates every so many years, like the next versions in other parts throughout the country, it's already gone through the Elections Assistance Commission. And then in the state of Arizona, they have their own test. It's a day and a half to 2 days long for the vendor to come and show what they had changed to see if it meets Arizona laws. It is a pretty complicated process. For me, I'll do whatever you want. You know, I don't run the printers. I don't make the paper, you know, and I don't run so whatever. So I can look into whatevers, but I guess I'd be the pioneer doing this and whatever.
Is there anything that would preclude us from including a perforated tab that would be ripped off that a voter can take with them or keep?
There is a tab that we had before with a vendor.
So I recall.
It would say, it was in yellow. I'm visualizing early ballots, and it would say, you know, it's sort of like a little receipt type of thing. But there are QR codes printed on the ballot tabs, on the packs of ballots that, you know, are sent out to the voting sites and in early voting and such. But those QR codes are not voter identification. They mean ballot number, wiki up, stow A and B, that type of deal. Things can be printed on the ballot in places, like cross tops and stuff, to try to make identification if wanted. But the scary part about, at least for me, of that is if we tie something to a ballot, to a person, like they call, you know, and you know, was my ballot tabulated stuff? Theoretically, somebody might say we could know whose ballot it was. I don't know. I got to think deeper into that. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's all. I'm going to open it up to the board for discussion. Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Alan, ideally what you would want is a number on that ballot that voter could then take that, tear off a number with him or sticker or whatever it was and be able to bring that up on our system to tell how his vote was, how we scored his vote.
Say that again? Go ahead.
If you had a number it's not tied to the person, it's just a random number for that ballot.
Okay.
Then that person could take the sticker that also has that number on it. When you scan those ballots into the database, that person could then look up his own number that nobody else knows it's him and see how we scored his ballot.
The answer is yes. You know, I know that's a possibility. And we'll say, forget about the tab thing or whatever. There's a little teeny tiny number of some sort that could be printed on the ballot somewhere. I've heard things like that, you know, that you would never see. But the scanning equipment programmed, if it could be programmed for that, would be able to show that. I'm just going to say like this, I don't work for them, but I'm sure you can.
The ballots
Somehow
have
that
a
we wouldn't
number
know.
on them now, don't they?
What?
The ballots have a number on them now, don't
They're
they?
just a number 1 through 50 means there's 50 in a pack, identical pack for, we'll say Wiki Up.
Okay.
And 51 through 100 and so on. So that's the number. It has it at the tab. It has it on the top of the tab. It's not on the ballot. There is no identifier whatsoever on the ballot. There is not.
Not even the Wiki Up number 1?
Okay. It says precinct number, but there is for
So
Wiki
you have
Up,
a number and a precinct? You have the precinct number and a number?
and I do 201-Wiki Up, and I make 400 of them.
Okay.
400 say that on it.
Well, that would work also, but you'd still have to be able to, when you scan that into the system, is that number then scanned, attached to the scan?
There's no attached to the scan. What you're talking about is somehow trying to tie a voter's vote without knowing who that person is, but they can do it. Something could be done. That was something we could look into, okay? But right now, the only numbers on that ballot, unless a ballot proposition, they have numbers and stuff, so to speak, right? Technically speaking, would be 201-Wiki Up, and they were all identical ballots.
So you don't have Wiki Up 1, Wiki Up 2, Wiki Up 3, Wiki Up 4?
No.
Okay.
No, just on the top of the tabs. I know there's 50 in there. That's the control number for the printer. The control number across it, there's a tab. It has number 1 on it. The next one's number 2 on it. And they don't sign them out by number, to people when they come in. They don't record that
Right.
Alan came in and we gave him ballot number 3.
Yeah, and I'm not interested in recording it to the voter. I want the voter to be able to know what number his ballot is so he can look it up and see how we scored how he tallied
I know where you're leading.
his ballot.
I know where you're leading, and I don't know that answer now, but we can.
Put that on your list then, please.
It's on my list.
Thank you, sir.
You bet.
Thank you, Chairman.
You bet. Recorder Durst, you are an accredited certified elections official, right? I mean, I know I didn't get the title exactly right, but what is your official opinion on adding back some sort of a perforated tab or something like that? I'd like to know what you think. Is that a benefit to our voters? Are there things that we can add to our ballots that would be a benefit to our voters? I'd like to know your input on that.
With a previous vendor, we had a tab that was removed. If we mailed the ballot to the voter, they had to remove it before returning it to us. The tab to the recorder's office is beneficial. When we receive ballots to our office that we then send out to early voting, when they have that tab, we can have better control and count over how many ballots we have left when early voting is over. Because it has, 1 through 50 in this bundle, 51 through 100 in the next. When we went to Runbeck, we had removed the tab. We could have a tab in the future, but it's not assigning a ballot to the voter. Voters can go on to my.arizona.vote and see if we've received their ballot back, and if it has been accepted by the recorder's office, then it's gone to be tabulated. But that doesn't say how it's going to be tabulated. Alan has requested that we wouldn't have a tab just for when it goes to his process, but if we have them for early voting, he is okay removing them prior to tabulation because it would change the page size.
Got it. Any other discussion?
Chairman Lingenfelter, if I could just add one thing.
Attorney Esplin.
So just some questions about the anti-fraud measures and things. There was legislation that was passed in 2021, 16504, that calls for anti-fraud measures. That statute, though, I believe was later found unconstitutional, so it's not valid currently, at least in the eyes of the court. So,
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Gould.
Ryan, was that stuff that got tied up with their budget, tying things to the budget?
It did.
Not necessarily that the action was unconstitutional. It was the tying it to the budget that was.
Yeah, that's an important distinction, and that's correct.
That is correct, yes. It's the case, I believe, is Arizona School Boards Association versus state, and it looks like, I'm just kind of skimming through it, but it looks like that's exactly what it was. It violated the one measure, the single subject measure, and then the budget. It wasn't.
So it wasn't the anti-fraud things or the countermeasures that were found illegal. It was tying it to the budget that was found illegal.
Correct.
That's an important distinction.
It is, yeah.
I'm willing to support this item, just for the presidential preference. I'd like to see, perhaps Mojave County come up with its own cooperative contract, but that's just me. I'll open it to the board.
We put all those nifty things on there. I'm sure everybody will want to sign up with us.
Yeah, well, opportunity.
May I add one comment?
Recorder Durst.
Pinal County may continue their contract, but they're not closing their bid until the end of December. That's why we were proactive to create our own contract, just in case that's not continued. So they may renew their contract with Runbeck and continue a cooperative agreement.
It still doesn't change the fact that there's an opportunity for Mojave County to have a cooperative contract of our own.
Correct.
That others can join on to.
Correct.
Gotta put out your business cap.
Okay.
Any other additional discussion? I'd make a motion to approve the current contract for Runbeck Election Services for the printing and mailing of election materials in accordance with Mojave County Procurement Code, Article 3, Section 8, competition impracticable, on behalf of the Recorder's Office for the presidential preference election. And I'd like to see staff come back, Recorder's Office, Elections Department, if you could, come back with what we can do as far as our own contract and perhaps adding something like a perforated tab, as you testified to our future ballots.
There's been a second.
Question.
Supervisor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is for the attorney. What I'm worried about is if we're just limiting this to presidential preference, does it put our primary and general in doubt? You know, if they Runbeck decides, well, okay, we're just doing this one and we're not doing another one, or, you know, that's what I'm curious about.
Chairman Lingenfelter, Supervisor Johnson, that really is a question for elections and timing and whether the company can do that or not. I don't know the answer, whether any company could do the primary and the general elections. I don't know the business of printing, so I don't know whether they can do that or not.
Well, I'm sure that they take business to do a one-off special election.
I don't know. I imagine so. I don't operate the business, so I don't know the answer.
Yeah.
Chairman Lingenfelter.
Supervisor Bishop.
I think it's too early to the election season right now. If we want to do something like this, I think we should be looking at the election in, say, 2026, so that we have time to do the research and put out the RFPs and find out if there's a company that's willing to do what this board is requiring. I think right now to mess with the 2024 election might be suicidal on our part. I mean, I know Mojave County loves the headlines, but I don't think we're going to like that headline.
Thank you. I do have a motion. It does not have a second. Seconded by Supervisor Gould. Additional discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
The ayes appear to have it. Do have it. So ordered. Item number 34, Supervisor Angus.
Thank you. Okay, so this is to approve the proposed logo and brand standards for Davis Camp Park for the purpose of future marketing collateral and park identification. And does somebody have a picture of this they can put on? Is Steve Latoski on the line?
Director Latoski present. Yep.
And good afternoon, Board of Supervisors. Chairman Lingenfelter, Supervisor Angus, yes, I can put a photo of or an image of the proposed logo for Davis Camp up on the screen. I believe you should be able to see the image now.
No, we see your calendar, though.
I'm sorry. It should come through here.
Well, do we?
We're all working our way through this new process, so bear with us, right?
Yeah. Okay, I'll just start why I pulled this. So I looked at it. It was in the backup. And, You know, art, design like art is subjective. It's in the eyes of the beholder. And I am not crazy about this logo. I don't think it works as a logo. I think, personal opinions, I think it is a bit dated, and I don't think it really conveys Davis Camp. I threw it up on Facebook yesterday, and I asked people what they thought of it. And out of about 30 people who responded to me on the page and privately, nobody liked it. They thought it didn't really represent Davis Camp. Everybody had ideas, and there were actually a couple of designers who just kind of threw something together and sent it to me. And they weren't there yet, but it was interesting to see the difference. So I'm hoping, I appreciate whoever put this together. I know it was done in-house within the department. I wanted it to come on because I wanted to see what the other supervisors thought and what I saw when I first looked at it. So we don't have that.
Oh, boy. I'm still, I thought it was showing. I'm sorry.
Excuse me?
Continue to, I do apologize. I thought I was showing it.
No, it's not.
Try it again.
Yeah, I want everybody to see it though. So when I first looked,
his laptop around the board.
yeah, when I first
Just
saw
try it
it,
again.
the first, oh, there it
There it
is.
is.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
And then it
sorry.
also had the black and white, because whatever logo you pick has to work in black and white as well for printing purposes. The first thing I thought, it looked to me like it said Paris Camp. And a couple of the people who wrote back to me said the same thing. I said, so that's not good if it can be read some different ways. I just think that we can do a little better, and I think maybe we're missing an opportunity. We don't want to spend money doing this, I agree, but maybe we can put together some kind of community thing. Bullhead City does this very successfully. Often they ask the community to chime in. Maybe they can submit some designs, and it just makes everybody feel included. And it's something, if you're using it for branding, it is important. It's something that is going to be around for a long time, and you just want to make sure that it works for all the reasons. You know, having been in that design business, it's not a small task to redo a logo. There's a lot of surveys and a lot of research into what you want to convey, and I just don't think we did that. So that's where I'm coming from. If any of the other, I'd like to hear what the other members of the board think.
Open it up to discussion.
Chairman Lingenfelter.
Supervisor Bishop.
I think this was a rebranding of all of the community, or all of the Mojave County parks. It wasn't just Davis Camp. So I don't have a problem with the logo the way it's designed. Maybe the D could be in a different font. But I think the simplicity lends itself well to using it on different products. The one example that was on Supervisor Angus's Facebook page had a lot of different colors and a lot of detail in it, and I don't think that will transfer well in a lot of different ideals, promotional materials, signs, advertising, and stuff like that. So, but I can see where the D in Davis could look like a P if you weren't familiar with the area. That's all.
Director Latosky, are you still on the line with us?
Yes, I am. Yes.
The one thing that you guys did do well, it says that it was determined to give a nod to the 80s. I think you guys nailed that. It kind of looks a little Miami Vice to me. But what was the process to come up with that? Was it just can you explain just a really brief overview of the process?
Certainly.
Who was involved?
Chairman Lingenfelter, members of the board, this was entirely done in-house. It was an organic process by which our Davis Camp Superintendent, Tim Simon, led the process. collaborating with Mr. Simon was Jordan Cummins, our parks planner, and it really mimicked the approach that we took with Walpi Mountain Park, which at the time when he was park superintendent, Jeremy Palmer developed the Walpi Mountain Park logo, which was well received. But Davis Camp being established in the early 1980s, this logo gives a nod to the 1980s. And it really kind of puts a special emphasis on Davis Camp being a longstanding entertainment, camping, and particularly a beach recreation destination. So we just aim for something of simplicity, but yet an element of boldness, something that captures the attention of our guests. And our guests tend to be at Davis Camp more energetic and activity focused with that, again, beach recreation elements. So capturing the riverfront elements and kind of the neon color scheme of the 1980s origin of Davis Camp was really where we were going with it. The cost was $0. Essentially, it was just staff's time, which is on the books. And again, that's pretty much how it unfolded.
Director Letoski, do you see any opportunity to open up a small time window to solicit some public submissions, and then you could bring some additional submissions to the board, and the board could choose one that they preferred? That's another idea.
Of course, we are open and welcoming of any suggestions to that regard. What we could do is perhaps entertain Chairman Lingenfelter and members of the board entertain a potential press release that just maybe offers the public the opportunity to submit some ideas, and we capture that logo essence from there. We would like to try to wrap up a logo and then try to get this branding process complete, preferably no later than the spring. We actually were aiming to do a car show type event in the spring, but certainly for our summer marketing, which is our heaviest demand, we would really appreciate to have a logo and branding in place by then. But I think we could do that.
Thank you. Additional discussion. Supervisor Angus.
Yeah, companies spend millions and millions of dollars for their logos and branding because it's that important. So I think that it would be well worth it to take a little time, talk about what we want to convey with our logo and stuff like that. So with that, if it's okay, I'd like to make a motion. I make a motion that we do not approve the proposed logo and brand standards for Davis Camp Park and ask Public Works to bring back a calendar or how we can go forward, including the public.
I'll second that. Additional discussion. Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Item number 45, Supervisor Bishop.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I pulled this because we do have a travel ban in Mojave County, and I was concerned that maybe this travel may be unnecessary to travel to Phoenix for our county assessor. After speaking to Gideon from the ACO, he stated that he'll be sending out a link to the Board of Directors meeting that can be attended virtually, and he'll also be emailing the presentations out that are given during the ACO conference. So I was thinking that perhaps our assessor, in the spirit of trying to hold back our travel, might be just as well served by just using the county car on a one-day venture down to ACO. That would save on motels and per diem for, 4 days, when you could make a showing for whatever meeting you felt is the most important and be back that day.
Assessor Kinch, welcome.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Board. We have our AAO meeting as well the day before, and that I believe is not available on Zoom. but our ACO might be. It wasn't available in the original. I am always willing to save money. I stay at my sister's house a lot so we can save money. Being that this is a conference and I want to represent you all, I'd like to be, I am on the board for there, so I want to continue to represent you, as well as the fact I have some deed fraud bills I want to get passed, and so as part of going to the conference is trying to get support for that. So that's my reasons for going.
Okay, I understand that. I'm on the board of the County Supervisors Association, and we had a conference, and I did not spend any travel money per diem or any, so, you know, I'm kind of holding out hope that our elected officials will do the same and try to save travel during this year leading up to our big deficit prediction of 18.5 million.
I understand, and I did get them to cover the conference as well, so we don't have to pay for the conference. So I am doing everything I can to save our county money, but I do take my job very seriously, and I feel like I need to represent my constituents, our property owners here, for any way that I can. And because I'm really working hard to try to get a deed fraud bill, it's very important to me that I go to this conference, and so that's why I've asked, even though I've done everything I could to reduce the cost. It's $700 for the entire trip, $750.
Additional discussion. Supervisor Angus.
Well, Supervisor Bishop brought up the fact that she went on her own money, and that's nice. I don't have that kind of money. I got reimbursed for my trip. Let me tell you, there are some things you have to show up in person. Because I was there, I held 5 proxies and was able to influence how things got voted on. If I wasn't there, we would be having to support CSA on things that we didn't want to do. There are things you have to be there for. When I travel, in the last 10 years, I have brought back, I'm off the top of my head, almost $8 million for this county. There's something about being there, looking people in the face, and that's why it's been done over and over. It's not a vacation, believe me, it's not fun. But you do it because that's your job. And so for this board to tell another elected official how to do their job and what's important, I think is not only irrational, but I think it's hypocritic. It's full of hypocrisy, because there are things I don't agree this other people do that cost money. But I'm not going to go and tell them how to do their jobs like they're trying to tell me how to do my job. So I'm with you. If you think that you need to be there to do your job, I'm with you.
Thank you.
Chairman Lingenfelter.
Attorney Esplin.
Thank you. I just want to clarify one thing. I've had a lot of questions from people and things that the travel ban, at least the eyes of the county attorney's office, is not a ban on travel, not a ban on movement. Elected officials, county employees, they're welcome to go where they wish and as they do. It's a ban on the use of county resources and to reimburse for travel expenses. That's the position and the view that the county attorney's office takes. So I just want to make sure we're clear on that.
Can I ask a question, Chairman Lingenfelter? Does that include the cost of using vehicles to go back and forth from work? Does that include in travel?
So we're talking about out of county. If it's
I know,
out of county.
but still, why aren't we including in-county travel? If the whole idea is to save money, then let's just do it.
That's for the supervisor to decide. I defer to you.
I will be bringing that back at the first meeting
that's for the
of
supervisor to make the
2020.
decision. I'm just from the county attorney's perspective, we see this as not a ban on movement outside the county. It's the use of resources. Okay, I just make sure we're on the same page. Thank you.
All right. Additional discussion. What's the pleasure of the board?
Chairman Lingenfelter.
Supervisor Bishop.
I will make a motion that we approve the county assessor using a county vehicle for travel to Phoenix and back on the same day of her choice for the conference.
You've heard that motion.
Second.
You've heard that motion and second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed?
No.
No. Ayes appear to have it. Do have it. So ordered. Item number 46, I pulled this item. We have one person that wants to speak on it, Victor Macias.
Hello, Board of Supervisors, Victor Macias. I'm just here to answer any questions.
Okay, great. Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion, any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Item number 52, Supervisor Angus.
Thank you.
I just wanted, Mr. Smith has been sitting here this whole meeting. I just wanted him to stand up. He had been the chairman of the public lands for the recreational trails back several years ago. That was very successful. So I just wanted him to say hello, and because he comes with experience to the board, as I believe Mr. Martin does. So just wanted to everyone to get acquainted with you.
Supervisor Angus, thank you for the opportunity to be reappointed to this commission, and looking forward to helping with anything I can to make sure our current and future generations have the best decisions for Mojave County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Smith, thank you for your willingness to serve.
I make a motion to approve item 52.
Thank you. For that motion, do I have a second?
Second.
That motion second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Item number 53, I've got one person signed up to speak. Supervisor Bishop, this is your item.
Okay, it's item 56.
53?
53. I didn't pull that.
Chairman Lingenfelter, we've actually already voted on item 53. It was not pulled
Oh,
from
I did,
consent.
okay. My mistake. Sorry about that, everybody. Item number 56 is a public hearing. I'm going to open the public hearing on item number 56. Is there anybody here wishing to speak? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing on item number 56. What's the pleasure of the board?
Chairman Lincoln-Felter,
Supervisor Bishop.
it's in my district, and I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. You've heard that motion. Do I have a second? I'll second that. Any additional discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Item number 57 is a public hearing. I'm going to open the public hearing on item number 57. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak on item number 57? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. What's the pleasure of the board?
Chairman Lincoln-Felter, this is also in my district, and I will make the motion to approve.
Thank you. You've heard that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
You've heard that motion second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Item number 58 is a public hearing. I'm going to open the public hearing on item number 58. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak on item number 58? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing on item number 58. What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. You've heard that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
You've heard that motion second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? You guys appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Regular agenda, item number 59. We have one person signed up for item number 59, Janice Richardson.
Good morning, afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I'm Janice Richardson of 3111 Kenneth Lane, Lake Havasu City. I'm here on behalf of myself and my husband, Paul, who regrettably has been called away on business and couldn't be here today. We want to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Ron Gould for taking time out of his busy schedule to visit with us on site to see firsthand the issues with our property. We also want to thank Mr. Tim Walsh and Mr. Paul Ballman for meeting with us and working together to come up with a resolution. Also, Mr. Wayne Griffin for his assistance with the necessary paperwork. And last but definitely not least, each of you for your help in resolving the issues surrounding our property and helping to make our dream come true, at least we hope. Thank you again, and thank you for your service to the community.
Thank you. Open up to the board.
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Gould.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. You've heard that motion. Do I have a second? You've heard that motion in second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered.
Yes, I agree.
Can we go?
There's somebody in the audience trying to get your attention.
All your items approved. You're free to bounce to your meeting, sir. Thanks.
Poor guy.
Item 60, regular agenda. Director Latosky, is he present?
Yes, Chairman Lingenfelter, members of the
Any
board.
questions for staff, or I'd open it up to the board? Item number 60. What's the pleasure of the board? I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
For the motion, second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered.
No one's voting.
Item number 61.
Chairman Lingenfelter,
Supervisor Bishop.
motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
For that motion and second, any additional discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Item number 62.
Chairman Lingenfelter,
Supervisor Bishop.
this is in my district, and I make a motion to approve.
I have
Thank
a
you.
question on that one.
Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A question for Director Latosky. Is it normal for the county to pay for stop signs on a issue such as this?
Director Latosky, can you answer Supervisor Gould's question?
Chairman Lingenfelter, Supervisor Gould, in this instance, it doesn't always come up, but the particular connection with our Vicar Road, where it connects to the county maintained road, we did discover that the roadway did not provide for the adequate traffic control signs as per the adopted MUTCD. The applicant really has no means by which to provide these traffic control signs. So we will have to come in, if the board were to accept this road, and make those 3 stop sign installations.
So, Director Latosky, we can't make the addition of those stop signs part of the things that the area does to bring that road up to county standards?
In this instance, the applicant did not have the resources to provide it, but certainly if it would be the board's preference, we could make that a condition of the acceptance of the roadway, that the applicant remit what would be basically a fee of that $1,000 and $1,053 for the signage.
Chairman Lingenfelter.
Supervisor Bishop.
Mr. Lukowski, if we do not provide these signs, the road could still be approved, is my understanding. But if we approve it without the signage, then the county could be open to legal liability if there was an accident as a result of an unmarked intersection. Is that correct?
Correct. Chairman Lingenfelter, Supervisor Bishop, yes, that's correct. For the roadways that Mojave County maintains, we have an obligation to ensure that the traffic control signs is up to date in accordance with the county adopted standards.
So was this an oversight on the part of Public Works that it hadn't been signed before?
Chairman Lingenfelter, Supervisor Bishop, having not been in the field, I can't necessarily comment on the particulars, but it's my impression that the actual our Vicar Road being in the county maintenance system would trigger these additional signing requirements. So with the current situation where it's just public right of way, we don't necessarily have that obligation.
Okay, could it go forward as in the maintenance system without signage at all, and the basic Title 28 codes would then be applicable? I mean, we don't have to have the signs there, right?
Bishop, I don't believe so. I believe that there is some, elements of the traffic control signage that need to happen if the board were to accept our Vicar Road into the road maintenance system.
Okay, I
I'd be
understand that
happy to,
it protects the county's best interests, but legally, Title 28 designates when a vehicle needs to come to a stop at an uncontrolled intersection. So that was my thought. We don't really have to have those signages there. It's helpful for liability issues, but it's not legally required. And maybe Mr. Esplin can confirm that.
Attorney Esplin.
Thank you, Chairman Lingenfelter. Supervisor Bishop, I don't know the exact answer, but I will just say, just basic advice. If we're talking $1,000, that's about 2 hours of attorney's fees. If you want to, I mean, if you're talking about liability, protect yourself as best you can, put up the signs. That will, I mean, if that will prevent any kind of lawsuits and accidents to happen, $1,000, it ain't much. So that'd be just my practical advice. Whether you want to impose it in the future, I think that's a good idea, but I'd do it in the future, look at it in the future, not necessarily on this one, so.
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It might be something that we look into in the future when people petition to have their road accepted into the maintenance program, that if it requires signage, that they should be responsible for that signage also, because they're responsible to bring that road up to county standards. But it might be a little late for these folks, so I'll go ahead and, did your motion get a second?
No, not yet.
Okay. Do you want a second?
Yes, please.
Second.
All right, great. We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Appear to have it. Do have it. So ordered. Item number 63. What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve.
For that motion, do I have a second?
Second.
For that motion and second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes appear to have it. Do have it. So ordered. Item number 64. Clerk Anderson. This is
Chairman Lingenfelter, this is something we do every year to appoint board members to the various outside entity boards such as CSA, things of that nature, as well as some internal boards, health, EBT. Every year you have the option to change it up, keep them the same. If you guys want to switch boards, don't want to switch boards, completely up to you.
Bring it up to discussion.
I'm fine with my boards.
I'm fine with mine.
Chairman Lingenfelter.
Supervisor Bishop.
Supervisor Angus indicated she may not want to continue with the LPC position, and I'd be happy to take that over.
Chairman Lingenfelter,
Supervisor Angus.
I've changed my mind. I want to stay on.
Okay. I'm not hearing any changes. Is there a motion to adopt the same commitments?
Motion to approve.
You've heard that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
You've heard that motion second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Ayes appear to have it. Do have it. So ordered. Item number 65 is Supervisor Bishop's item. We do have one person signed up to speak. Supervisor Bishop.
Okay, I brought this back for reconsideration because there's funding now available for our county recorder to travel and take advantage of this, this meeting without it costing the general fund any money. So I make a motion to approve.
Second.
For that motion second. Scotty McClure, you signed up to speak on this item. Would you like to speak?
Well, this is no longer funded county.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Recorder Durst said this is going to be expenses picked up by the Arizona Secretary of State's office. Is that accurate? I believe that it's going to be picked up by the Arizona Secretary of State's office. You've heard that motion second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Item number 66, Supervisor Angus.
You know what? I brought this back in anticipation of some glitches in this, but it's actually worked. I think this meeting, there weren't that many times they had to come, but I think it worked relatively well. So I'll just, no action taken on this.
Great. Item number 67,
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Gould.
I move that the Board of Supervisors recess into executive session for advice from the attorney.
You've heard that motion. I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? Executive session.
Door's locked.
I got the message.
It's cold in that room.
We'll call the meeting back to order. What's the pleasure of the board?
Let me see, where are we?
Item number 67.
Chairman Lingenfelter, I'll try to make a stab at the motion.
Thank you.
Make a motion that we adopt the attached recommendation of declaration of vacancy for the office of precinct committeeman and direct staff to provide the form to the political parties for use on future Board of Supervisors agendas. That's without any customization from either party.
Thank you. You've heard that motion.
Second.
Heard that motion second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Item number 68, Attorney Esplin.
Why is this making noise?
So this is with the opioid litigation. There's two different paths that the defendants in the opioid litigation have been taking. One is through the classic settlements in court. The other one is through bankruptcy. We went through this about a year or two ago where a different opioid manufacturer, distributor went through bankruptcy. And when you go through bankruptcy, at least the type of bankruptcy that they're going through, they have to do a plan of reorganization. And the plan of reorganization says here, this is how we're going to pay off these debts, and this is how we're going to handle all these suits and everything else. And each party to the bankruptcy gets to vote on that plan. And so there's lots and lots of people who vote on this plan. We would be one of them. What this is doing is this. What this motion is asking is this. When they have their plan of reorganization ready to go, when Endo International has their plan of reorganization ready to go, you are authorizing me, the county attorney's office, to submit Mojave County's vote to Keller Rohrbach, and Keller Rohrbach will then submit the vote for the plan, whether that's to approve the plan or to deny the plan. So that's what this is about.
Supervisor Angus.
No, I was just going to make a motion to approve this.
Thank you.
I'll second that. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? You guys appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. We are adjourned.
Wait.
Oh, excuse me. Okay, we're not adjourned. Supervisor
I just
Angus.
have one more thing. Because it's the last meeting of the year, we're not having a second meeting in December. I just wanted to wish the public and our employees very Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and a very safe and happy New Year.
Thank you for that. Any other comments for the good of the order?
Holiday blessings.
Holiday blessings. Charlie Brown Christmas. We are adjourned.